Hello. Oh, everyone's here. All right. I was just double checking all of your projects and stuff like that. Uh, Let me get going here in a second. Oh, yeah, of course. Mhm. Oh, you need the headset? Oh, okay. Well, actually, no, we're fine. So just having a conversation with my wife about whether we need the headset. It's all very exciting adult stuff. Um, I love the monotony of life. Okay, I'm gonna just do a quick screen share and then we'll get going. And all of this was recorded, by the way, so me looking like an ass. All right. Um, so before we get going, I want to check to see if my sound is working properly. I think it is. Uh, Number two, uh, did I say anyways? One, check the headphones. Two, I want to go over what very briefly about I've already looked at over all your PowerPoint slides, at least the ones you submitted on Tuesday. Uh, just briefly gives a couple general overview ideas behind that. Uh, and then just a reminder that we're doing our presentations after this during the lab time. I'll just put a somewhat random order unless you guys want to go first, second, just choose your own order. I don't really care. The big thing for me is we have everybody attend all of them so you can ask questions. That is my big thing. That is the big point of concern for me. That is what I want. That's the whole point of this. It is not to embarrass people. It is not to prove that your system works perfectly. No, it's I want more eyes on this system to be able to give proper feedback. And it always feels a little weird for me, no matter what. I've learned through experience that no matter what, I'm going to miss something. Everyone misses something. It is foolhardy and foolhardy to assume that you are going to get everything all the time. Even if you're a consultant, you're going to miss something, like no matter what stage you're in. The key is if you know this, now you're probably going to miss fewer things as you get more experienced, but you're going to miss something. So more eyes on the screen or more opinions can be more beneficial. Uh, so the two things I've noticed so far. Number one, let me think of what I wanted to say on this. Number one, if you do not have a solid "my design is done" approach yet, get there. Get there quickly. You do not want to be aiming for a moving target. So if you are still working out through your ideas, and right now is that we're about to start coding. If you are coding and it's a moving target, you're hosed. You have to nail this thing down. But there's some groups that are a little bit premature for nailing things down because there's still things I'm like, yeah, you could do that better. Well, that's part of this discussion. You can do some of the foundational stuff coding wise for sprint one. Don't get into but don't start thinking it's set in stone, but also don't be moving the goalposts. You cannot change your design 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now. You just cannot do or if you do it, be aware that it's going to be a problem. That is the nature of this. You do not, if you have an architect, they build their designs, they have all their designs done, it's done, and then they pass it off to other people because they're making a building. There might be some minor adjustments. And this is an iterative process. So we're talking like a minor building. They do like their first floor, and then you check to make sure everything's right. And then you go to the next floor, and then you check if everything's right. That's how software is normally done. Not draw the building, pass it to someone, they build it. It's little iterative, but at the same time, you need to have a solid design. You need to have a solid target that you're hitting. Um, which brings us to another point, which is for each of the sprints, you need a to-do list task, which I don't know if I explicitly ask for, but I definitely want you to have. Talk amongst yourselves, be very explicit. Do not wait to the last minute because you wait to the last minute, you will not hit your mark. It's like it's like performing in a play as well. It's like anything that you're doing in life. But I did some a long, long, many years ago plays. Uh, and you do not, you're not practicing and learning your lines during dress rehearsal. If you do, you are hosed. It is a terrible position to be in. You want to be off book well before that. You want to have all your steps done well before that. You want to know everything well before that and be practicing. So in this case, you need to make sure that you have as much done early as possible, because at the end, it's very hard to do those last minute things. 80% of your time is on the last 20%. If you work under that assumption, you want 80% of your work done in like the first week, maybe the second week, but like you got to get that done and out of the way, because all your time is going to be spent at that last little bit, those little tweaks. That's where they kill you. That's what kills you essentially. Okay, questions about the presentation or anything along those lines? Not even sure you guys can hear me, so I think you can. Otherwise, you would say your mouth is moving. I don't hear anything, or you're all asleep because it's 8:30 in the morning. Okay, good. Thank you, Sebastian. Um, if everyone else is okay with it, Tori, you called it first. Dibs. Tori's group head called dibs on it first. So first presentation. Nice. Please stay around as well afterwards. Okay, we're going to go over focus plus context, and we're also going to try and get to filtering and aggregation today. I was thinking, oh, we needed to really catch up on time, and then I realized, no, we got some time here. I like going over this because filtering it, focus plus context is going to be, okay, Stephen, you can go second. Uh, focus plus context allows us to do things. It's things that I didn't see a lot in your presentation. Some of your projects, I think Tori, your group is doing that. I'm always mixing my groups and who's involved in each group. The group, sorry. Um, but we definitely have groups that are doing some brushing and linking or focus plus context stuff. If you have a timeline and you're choosing a subset of the timeline, that's focus plus context. We will be looking at that today. Not everyone did that, but it's something that you might want to think about for some of your groups. Uh, for example, if you're doing a map and you just zoom in, you know where you are on the map. Now, most of the time for a map of Ottawa, you do not need the general context around Ottawa. You don't need a fisheye lens. You do not need a zoom in, but sometimes it's useful. Um, we'll actually look at focus plus context theoretically for places in Ottawa when you're looking at vaccination rates, or let me think of a good example. You can also do that with the Green Monsters group. They're looking at energy usage. And by the way, we're going to talk about proper labeling of things. I completely misunderstood some of their graphs earlier, thinking it was age. They didn't say the age of the person or the household, the people, the primary people in the household, not the age of the house. Maybe you said it, but it was not obvious, and that's why I was like, you can't change the age, right? It's the age of the person, because 65 and up does not seem that seems appropriate for the age of the person as well. In Canada, we have a very rapidly aging population, uh, but yeah, we're not rapidly aging. We have a predominantly older population, I should say. Um, so that was a point of confusion on my part. But that leads to other problems as well. But the age of the house is a useful piece of information. I'm not sure it changes how you choose your house, and we'll get to that as well. Uh, but in that case, if I'm choosing a particular province, maybe I want to give the focus on is on a particular province, and I want the context of uh, other things around. So, in the other provinces, I want an overview of what the other provinces look like, but I'm focusing on, let's say, Alberta, and I'll have the information about that. The age of the house is important, but the age of the house also says other things. So how many of you live in a brand new house or a brand new condo? We actively go out of our way to find older-ish houses, about 1980 or so. This house is from 66, late 60s, let's say, the house I'm currently in. And you might say, well, that's not very energy efficient, but yeah, but we upgrade it. We put in insulation. Now, it may not be as nice for insulation, but we also get a nice house. The lots are different in terms of size. The areas are more mature. They're more like you have trees, established trees in the area. There's a lot of other factors that go into the house than just energy efficiency. And energy efficiency is a very important factor, but it's not the only factor. So you have a confounding issue there, which is if you want to live in a nice manicured, like the reason certain areas in Toronto, like North York, are expensive is because they're established, well established neighborhoods with a good school system, with really nice, really rather large houses by Toronto standards. Westboro, same thing. It's not because it's all brand new. It's actually old. They like it that way, but it has nice little shops and it's an established neighborhood. It's the reason you could not catch me. I would not be caught dead moving out past Canada to like these brand new subdivisions that they just drop down, right? With all these cookie cutter houses that all look the same. Right? I don't like that. So there's other confounding factors to consider. Something to think about, at least. Okay, but older houses, absolutely. And so now the question is there a way to retrofit the houses, that sort of thing, rather than not buying the house? Because sometimes you don't have a choice. Okay, that's going ahead on your project rather than the actual topic of the day. So I got distracted. So last time when we were looking at this, I'll get the cornflake out. Do I have the, yeah, we have the cornflake, right? We discussed what it was. We couldn't necessarily tell. Finally, someone gave me that it was cornflakes. Very good that you've been able to identify that. Good, great guesses on your part, because that's the point. If you're just staring at the data, if I look at some random area in Ottawa or traffic violence, if it's not my area of Ottawa, I'm lost. I have no clue where I am. Heck, I'm still lost even if it's my own area of Ottawa. The context, the surrounding areas tell you something. It helps situate the work. If you give me the cost of electricity or what the energy usage in Ontario is, if you don't give me the other provinces, I don't know. The context tells me something, right? I have no point of comparison if that's a lot of energy being used or not until I see it compared to how much a mobile home uses. So what we get is this desert fog effect. If I'm too close to the data, if I don't have context, I get lost. And that's what we're looking at today. Can I give hints at the other data? I don't want to give the details, just a hint at what the other data looks like so I don't get lost. So we'll see a whole bunch of techniques for that. We've already looked briefly at some of them. Overview plus detail is this sort of thing where I have, this is the data set that I'm looking at. Here is what it looks up like zoomed in. I have low fidelity image up here, but read all the details I want down here. I can label things. I can make it very, look nice and clean. I can change a whole bunch of paragraphs. But what I want to show is, I'm in this area right here, and here's what it looks like. I can't, if I have an interactive visualization, I can do that. I can't do that in, let's say, if you go to the mall and you get lost in the mall, like I always do. You go to one of those mall maps and it says you are here, and then you're trying to figure out where everything is, and it's really, you get this little tiny dot and you get a whole bunch of buildings. What I want is, here's where I am in the mall. Here's the immediate surroundings in higher definition detail. That's what I want. You can't do it on a map unless it's interactive. The other thing we looked at was multiform overview plus detail. That's also perfectly valid. So I'm choosing this subset of the data, and here it is in a different formulation. That's fine. So the investors group, so the data dudes, I do believe your name, I always mix the names. So data dudes, you have a timeline of, from 2019 and 2020 for all of this time. So you have pre-COVID and post-COVID with investment rates, and a bunch of other factors. And you can choose what part of it is. You also had two different visualizations. So why not? But you can disagree with me. I'm more than happy to be wrong, but I like that disagreement. That's where we learn. If we had two different visualizations, top and bottom, like you're proposing, what if that timeline shifts the view for both visualizations, not just one, both? So the timeline actually dictates the amount, and those two visualizations, those two charts that you have, are linked based on the time. So I adjust the amount of time visible, and the same timeline is on both. Now, you may not want that. Maybe you want the overview, complete overview on the other one, and it stays static. But it's nice to have, sometimes it's very nice to have them both synced up so you can directly compare across. So that would be an overview plus detail with a different view, with a multiform. It's for each month, but you can choose a subset of the months, right? Part of your thing was you had a bar chart, you had an overview timeline for the entire time, and you're choosing a subset of it. And both of those could have the full timeline, but you can imagine it being a smaller timeline. Now, if you don't think that's useful or you tried it out and it didn't look good, that's fine. I got no problem only having it linked to one. That's fine. Just it's a design direction you could look into and you go like, nope, that didn't work, or that did work. If it doesn't work, leave it alone. Right? That's my job. I'm not to tell you the answer. There's no answer that I know of. It's I'm guiding it through the design process because we don't know what the answer is yet. We're just trying to figure out what might work in certain situations. So nice. If you tried it and it didn't work, fine. We also looked at a bunch of things. So we talked about manipulating our data. We can say we can manipulate or move our data. We can change the position. We can change the data itself. We can select certain parts. We can navigate. That's zooming in and panning. That's us changing the data. That goes hand in hand with its focus plus context. Because if I'm zooming in, especially with navigation, because if I'm zooming into my data, it means I'm throwing away or putting other data out of it. If I'm selecting a certain subset of the data and the rest of it's there, I want to get, if I'm choosing a portion of the data to show better detail for, I want to know what other things I did not select. Let me think of a good example. You guys have invariably gotten into one of these cases where you have a filter on something you're looking at and you don't check it off and you don't see that you have a filter on there, and things just magically go away. If you design a system badly, and invariably you've run into it either on Amazon. Amazon does a pretty good job at that. But various websites where they'll have a filter, and if you don't realize you had the filter on it, you lost all this data and you have no idea where to find it again. CU Learn's painful for that, for professors at least, where when you're looking at your data, I'll filter out students, not see that they're filtered out, not get any kind of feedback that they're filtered out, and then not know that you're not seeing certain things. So we're looking at reduction and all this kind of stuff soon, but we're talking about if I have essentially different facets of the data, showing them at the same time to get my the context. That's what we're looking at. So we could split things into multiple views. Fine. So this would be, I have one view that's zoomed in. This is the overview. I could superimpose it. And that's what another one we're going to look at. Fisheye lens would be like this, where I have a zoomed in version of the data, and I have the rest of the data sort of just behind it. And then we looked at brushing and linking as well, which is if I select select something in one, I get the same reaction in the other. And I've had some people ask what brushing and linking is. So if I choose this particular timeline, the subset of the data, the same subset of the data gets highlighted in the other view. So when I brush in one or select in one, it highlights in the other. That is way more powerful than people give it credit for. We'll see other examples of this. Okay. So focus and context, I don't know why they don't say focus plus context, but the focus is the thing that I'm paying attention to, the detail. So overview plus detail is a version of focus plus context, but the focus is the thing I'm looking at. The context is the other stuff that helps me understand to situate the work. People will give me in 2400 and 1400, they'll say, what's wrong with my code? And they'll give me 3 lines of code. How am I supposed to know that? I don't have the context. I don't know if you included this file. I don't know this. I don't know that. The line of code is important, That's the thing I'm going to be focusing on, but I need the other surrounding information just in case something weird is going on. So data to show when you where you are and how the focus data relates to the larger data set. That's it, but it's critical. So here would be, I always pronounce that, I don't even know, that word is a new word for me in the English language. I've read it, so I've been reading it like it's a chameleon example of this here. Alide, elide, but don't know the word in English. We'll go over that in a second, but it is, I have my data set and I'm pulling out some subset of the data set. I know what it does. I just don't know how to pronounce it because I'm only reading it. I can superimpose my data. This is another way we can, or we can also put two different versions of the data. So that's another version of our way we can do focus plus context. So right, here's my focused area and the context is the stuff in the background, or maybe I'm showing a subset of the data. We can distort my geometry. This is the reason I wasn't supposed to wear any kind of checker pattern. Because when I distort my geometry, one of the things that helps me know what the geometry looks like is by providing a grid that I then distort, I can see exactly how the fisheye lens is working. Or I can just do a pull-out effect where I see this as a detailed version, but I see where I am in the overview. The idea is I select a region or subset or attribute of my data, the focus, and where I navigate. And what I show, the hints I'm giving, the breadcrumbs I'm giving are critical. And that takes practice. It takes time. It takes, a lot of iterations in the design process. People will think it's obvious, but it's not. What little bits of tweaks of information I give to the person tells them how to read this. So here we go. This would be a lesion. I'm going to smart hide. The idea is I'm going to hide crap that I don't need, but I'm going to do it in an intelligent way. So I could show all of these bar charts, if presuming every single one of these things is a bar chart on its own, like this. I have a whole bunch of bar charts. I don't want to show all of them. It's overwhelming. So I will show I will be able to pull out individual bar charts, much like the export group wants to look at detailed information about any given site, like a sledding hill, for example. Same with COVID testing, the COVID testing group. But I don't want to show every single hill or every single COVID testing site all at once. So I can expand. The better thing is, rather than just, you are already doing this, by the way, if you have the name of each of the hills one after the other, or each the name of the sites one after the other, you're already doing this, but you can do it, you can tweak it in different ways. You want to give enough information that they know where they're looking, and maybe that information is not just the name of the hill, because maybe I don't know where these hills are. Maybe I need something else, like distance away from me, something like that. I want to have just enough overview that I can make an intelligent decision of which one I want to drill into. And when I drill into it, I get the details. So it's intelligently hiding all the other information. And the best examples are like this. Here's a space tree. So it's a tree, but when I click onto something that it can expand out, like I click on one of these triangles, the size of the triangle will tell me how many other elements there are in that tree. It's a smart hiding. It provides other information other than there's more stuff. It's maybe how much more stuff there is underneath it. So the size of the triangle here, this is a bigger triangle than over here. So if I click this, I would expect a huge tree underneath. Under here, it's a small little tree underneath. Right here, a fair number of elements underneath. When I click this thing, I will get more in my tree. Here's an actual example of a space filling tree. Hopefully it's still working. We're going to see. PowerPoint is fairly slow for this sort of thing. Maybe it won't even load. We'll see. I have other examples I can show you. The idea is the size of the circle tells me how much is beneath that node. and then I click this circle, and then I can expand it, expand it, expand it. If it's grayed out, it means I cannot select it. Hopefully. Come on, let's hope this actually loads. I didn't know it was that slow. I've loaded it fast before, but that was on a local Wi-Fi. Oh, no, cannot be reached. It might be offline. I'm just going to reload it here and just go back to this. I have other examples. Maybe I don't. I had other examples. This will give me this won't give me an interaction. I should have another example. That's a lens. Okay. So this thing here, what it should do. So I'll just talk this part through at least. If I click this, it'll expand out the tree. It'll show the other branches of the tree. The size of the circle tells me how much is beneath it. It's an intelligent way of indicating what's beneath it. If I have a hierarchy, if I have just sledding hills, for example, maybe I have how much details I have about the sledding hill, or maybe I have the busyness. Oh, there you go. So what you could do is the busyness of your sledding hill. You color the individual. You have all these sledding hills, and the color of the bar, or maybe some kind of filling in effect, or maybe some kind of glyph on the bar. Just minimal amount of stuff, but something about this indicator, this sledding hill that you're showing, indicates some critical piece of information, like the distance away from you, like the number of people that are going to it, like the vertical height or something like that. So when I look at the overview, I see what is available and one of the major criteria I'm looking for. When I click it, I get the full details. I get the overview, and then I can get some of the details. After I can get the details, but I can get how it all ranks relative to the other stuff. If I look at provinces, I would see, I'm looking at Ontario maybe at the time, but I also see critical information like energy usage on all the other provinces if I have a list of all the provinces. So I can know where to go. It actually forms a form of scent. When we didn't talk about this term. I had a big long lecture on this in my grad class. This idea of information foraging, which is the idea of how people or how animals forage for food, how they hunt or forage for food. It's the same way how we look for information. It's a theory that we have. So what I want is some kind of scent to follow, something to give a hint where the information is, where the important stuff is. I want to hint where the good stuff is so that people can find where things are, and they can also compare in the more general view. Okay, focus plus context. I can also do a superimposed layer. Here would be one of them, a magic lens. A magic lens is if I want to see the slope of, here's a map of, I don't even know where that map is, but here is some geographic map. What if I want a different piece of information? I can throw a magic lens on it. It is a window into a different view of the data, like X-ray vision, essentially. So I put a magic lens on, and I can move this layer over, and I'll get different information than for the rest. This is what my supervisor was looking at when it came to that, what was it? Collaborative coupling over tabletop displays. I love that name. Anyways, that thing was looking at bus routes, multiple people using these kinds of lenses on top of a tabletop to see what kind of bus route they were going to take. By just putting it over, and I don't want to show the entire map this way because maybe multiple people are doing different things. What I want is a little window into that one area with a different view of the data. Or if I move multiple lenses over top of it, I'll get the slope and the traffic information, let's say, or the slope and something else on top of it. I don't want to overwhelm people, but I know where I'm looking right now. I'm looking at that window. That's where my focus is. The rest of it becomes context. Here's Fingerglass. Fingerglass, I'm not sure if I can, let's see if I can share my computer audio. I also need to turn on my computer audio. Share computer sound. Hopefully it's not too loud. And hopefully it's still going to work.
In this video, we present Fingerglass. This multi-touch technique enables users to precisely interact with small objects, and at the same time, to navigate to different locations. Many graphical computer applications require us to interact with objects at various levels of precision. Operating such applications on touchscreens using bare fingers is not very efficient. We show how Fingerglass makes multi-scale touch interactions not only more efficient, but also more precise.
It's like an
As an
infomercial. I don't know
example,
how to
let
do
us
it.
consider the following street map application. First, the user wants to explore different parts of the city. Second, he also wants to select and translate small targets, which is hard using just bare fingers. To accomplish this with Fingerglass, he first defines an area of interest using one hand. As long as this hand is touching the screen, Fingerglass displays a magnified version of this area. By touching the screen outside this magnified version at the same time, the user can change its size and position. He can also interact with objects by touching the interior of the magnified view. During object translations, the background still gets updated in real time. This way, the user can perform interactions while retaining context information. In some cases, such interactions may extend beyond the current magnified view. The user can then release his first hand, while still keeping the object pressed with the other hand. The first hand can then be used again to define a new area of interest. The object will then move instantly to this new area. As an alternative, users can just tap at a location instead of redefining the area of interest. The object will still move, but the magnified view remains very small to avoid occlusion. This way, users can specify.
All right, that's enough for that. I think it gives the idea across. This is what a magnifying lens looks like for a tabletop display. It's very common for things like tabletop displays, large screen displays, that sort of thing. When you're using bimodal interaction with it, you're not using a mouse and keyboard, and you want to be able to zoom into a particular area quickly. This kind of thing may not be necessarily appropriate for your projects. Some of your projects, yes. But because that distortion is going to be kind of brutal. But there are other things that we can look at. So let's go back to this. Here's Fingerglass. And by the way, there's a long-standing history of magic lenses or interactive lenses over time. There are like a ton of them. So this is a graph of, I think, a compute, like the internet, let's say, and you can do a zoom in to this one particular region and get high fidelity, like the full fine details for this one particular region, but not the other ones. Or maybe I'm only showing graphs associated with particular computers that I'm interested in this one particular region, but I get all the other stuff as well. I could look at a brain scan. Here's the brain scan. Where is it related to? It's related to the rest of the head, right? I'm giving the view. So that's actually what they do, by the way, for brain scans. They'll use a whole bunch of slices one after the other, and you navigate through the slices, but you still want the overview of where it is in the head, because maybe you're better than me, but if you give me a random brain slice of a person, I'm not going to know where that fits into the grand scheme of things, right? If you give me a random computer network or a random network of nodes or a random social network, like who knows who in this university, not going to know. I need it in context. I need to see where it is relative to other things, where it is relative to other people. Who knows where they are, where they're located. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so if you were looking at Carleton University, finding your classes at Carleton, where is that building? I don't know. Give me some point of reference that is going to help me navigate it. But I want high level detail for that building. I want to mute everything else, but I want to know where the O train is to know relative where it is on campus, for example. Here's overview plus detail. This is my personal favorite, not just because of World of Warcraft, because I'm actually, it's not World of Warcraft, just Warcraft. Not because I play Warcraft, I don't actually play it at all. But I find it extremely useful. It's also useful in pretty much every role-playing game on the planet and a bunch of other things. The idea is, can you give me the overview in one small window just to give me just enough? Notice what they're teasing me at. They're not showing me the buildings. They're showing me a bunch of red blobs to see which team is which. They're showing me certain key locations. They're showing me roads, some little waveform, pathfinding, but they don't tell me the details. I do not see what this actual troop looks like. I'm not seeing what their hit points are. I'm not seeing all this other stuff. I'm seeing only the overview. And then up here, it's all the gory details. You've seen this about 1,000 times. You may not have realized it. Even if it's not spatial, you still see it. We'll see another example in a second as part of our in-class exercise. The beautiful thing about this is, unlike this sort of thing, that occludes it. That lens on top blocks stuff underneath. If it's a zoomed in version like with finger glass was, you're blocking a whole bunch of map underneath it. And if you have to move it out of the way, oh wait, this is what I'm doing with this thing here, right? It's occluding my screen. When I'm doing these presentations, I got the chat window open and it's blocking something underneath it. If I need to see certain things on my auxiliary screen, I don't see squat. So that's occlusion is a major issue for most systems, especially if you have to do this zoom in effect. And this avoids that by just putting it somewhere else, but it takes up space. It avoids occlusion, but it does require extra space, or you need to occlude. You need to put it over top of this, and now you're blocking a whole bunch of screen. And you need to link the views. If you don't have a link in the views, you're wasting your time. There's a hard and fast rule for overview plus detail. So if I'm overview and detail, I should say, if I'm doing an overview, I need to see where I am. Where is this in the grand scheme of things? So otherwise, this is not useful at all. If anyone's ever played Hollow Knight, anyone play Hollow Knight, by the way? It comes up in, yeah. So Sebastian, you've seen this when you have the compass and when you have the map. They're two different things. Oh, Legend of Zelda also does this all the time. The compass and the map, what's the difference? You can have the map all you want. If you don't know where the hell you are on the map, what's the point of having the map? Oh, the compass shows where the bad guy, the big boss is actually for Zelda. But in Hollow Knight, if you don't have a compass and the map, you have a map and you don't know where you are on the map, and you don't know where you don't know where to go next. Knowing where you're located and the map is key. Just showing a map of the mall without the "you are here" little sticker thingy, it's a waste of your time, right? The "you are here" is what you're looking for. Okay. So you need that connection. I love this approach. It is really powerful, but we're going to see it in action a bit more in a second. And then we finally have the other one, which is this thing here, right? If you're showing a geometric grid, the focus plus context, or focus and context, if you want to call it that, the idea is that you're distorting geometry. It is actually literally looking like a magnifying glass at this point. This is called a fisheye distortion, but you can do other kinds of distortions. A fisheye lens is all the way around that area. I'm distorting the geometry so it looks, the thing I'm in focus here is way bigger than that here. Around the edges, I have actually less visibility, but the thing I'm looking at, like a magnifying glass, the thing I'm looking at gets a lot of attention and it's zoomed in. But everything else around it is muted. So I don't know if I have a good, here's another part of the geometry. Here's an example. This is, I do believe it's Washington, D.C., there's White House, right? So I'm looking at this area. I'm seeing all the metro stations in this area. I've distorted the geometry around here. I still see all the overview, but really what I'm looking for is the details about Washington, D.C. around the White House. That's what a fisheye lens comes in handy. I don't particularly like them. They're also hard to implement. So I'm not expecting that, but it is an option for a lot of people. And there are some really cool things you can do with it. A fisheye lens, just like a magnifying glass. There's one more that we can do, which is accordion drawings, a rubber sheet navigation. An accordion drawing it just keeps on expanding like an accordion. It goes in and out. It goes in one direction or another direction, but it doesn't do both directions at the same time. So it allows me to zoom in on, here we go. This would be, here is all of my navigation, but notice there's a whole bunch of lines in here. This is actually a phylogenetic tree. So genetic tree. And here is a whole lot of different creatures, but I don't care about those creatures. So they're all packed in together. but I've expanded out this subsection. So I stretch one area. It's called rubber sheet navigation because if you imagine a sheet of like rubber that you nail down four corners of, and you stretch on certain areas, but on other areas, what you get is it's stretched in one area, not stretched in another area, but the overall size is the same no matter what. So by stretching out this, I compact this part here, but now I'm seeing this one area that I really am interested in. And I can also stretch it in the other direction, the other dimension as well. All of this requires some kind of pathfinding, guaranteed visibility, and be able to know where I am. So I want to try this, and let's say do 10 minutes. It should be lecture 13, I do believe. I don't think I even put it in here, but I should put it in here. I want you to look at XE xe.com, and look at the currency charts. You don't have to use this exact URL, but I was looking at US compared to Canadian exchange rates. I actually put this in when I was trying to do the Canadian US exchange rate when we're trying to move back to Canada. Have a look at this. I haven't looked at this in a while, so maybe it's not working like the last time, but let's see if it does. Nope, that's eager eyes. That's best and worst visualization. Don't click that thing. xe.com. So XE Trade allows you to change and pools, currency charts, currency converter, today's rates, trends over any currency. And we're going to look at US dollars to, let's say, Canadian dollars. You can do whatever you want. You can do Australian dollars if you want. Please say, we can just get out of that. And let's have a look. And I want you to play around with this and see what you think of this particular way of doing things. Do you have another currency exchange approach that you've seen? Or maybe just do a search for it. But this is what overview plus detail gives you. Here's my overview on the bottom. I know where I am. Here's the detail. Oh, and tenure. Okay, so let's see what I actually said for this. So think about what the marks and channels that are used. I'm just going to, I want more for the play around with effect. What do you like about, dislike the visualization or dislike about the visualization? What was good? What was bad? What would you improve about this? Right? Uh, and what they're using different color maps. What kind of colors would you actually end up using? And we're going to look at what kind of focus plus context we're actually using here. Let me see here. Yeah, so just I would say just grab a screenshot, see what you think of this thing, and how you want. What would you do differently, or do you have another currency exchange rate calculator or system that works better? Google also has a pretty good one for exchange rates over time, so you can look at that one if you want to look at it. I just want you to find examples of an overview plus a focus plus context approach. This is an overview in detail, but there are other ways. And we're putting in this. I should fix the slides themselves. And there we go. Put in lecture, if I can type lecture 13. There you go. I'm hoping I'm not raining on anyone's parade by stealing this from them, but this would be another approach. Notice it doesn't have the overview per se. It has a bit of an overview. You can see the different options, but it doesn't give you the overview of where this situates in the whole thing. So if I do 5-day, I would conclude, hey, look, GameStop is doing pretty well for itself. All right. What's the rate of this? Notice the numbers are at the bottom. So $256. All right. So I should be buying some GameStop. That's clearly the case. GameStop started at $118. There's no possible negative sides to this. That's why we have the context. That's the BlackBerry in there instead. I'm going to see what you guys have if you've come up with anything. Just, I want you to play around with this. The rest of the exercise of talking about colors is more uh, for you to get practice on how you evaluate something, how you think about a visualization. What are the marks? What are the channels? What are the colors that are being used? It's the practice you need to get good at this. Don't panic over whether you got that part right or not. In the meantime, I want to look at what we have here. Oh, that's filtering and aggregation. Whoops. Well, we're throwing it in the filtering aggregation, I guess. No one's thrown in either of them, so let's just change the actual value here. So we're gonna put in lecture 12 because we can. Okay. I still don't have any submissions yet, but maybe it just hasn't uploaded yet. But submit what you have right now because I don't want to spend too much time and fall really far behind in the lecture schedule. But one of the things is I can talk all I want until you see one of these things for real and you play around with it. You don't go, oh, that's what that thing is for. Um, so if you have another example of an overview plus detail or general focus plus context technique, throw it in there. Let's see it as well. That would be great to see as well. They don't show up all the time, but when they do, they're like, oh, that's really nice. This does not have an overview plus detail necessarily. Still nothing, I think. Please submit something now while you can. There we go. Got somebody. Thank you, Stephen.
It's not fully finished with all the questions answered. I just did a very rough
That's
overview.
fine. I mean, I've given less than 10 minutes. It's one of those things. All right, so you've seen the full thing. What I like to show. Let's see if I can. I don't want to embarrass you or anything like that, but I liked what you're doing. So what I really like to visualize, show the trend throughout the past year up until now with the line graph that is interactable, allows the user to hover over any of the points. Yep, which is huge. That is the details on demand. On this graph, at any point, look at the exact values, the dollar, what the dollar values are. The graph uses lines and color. Now the question is what color? It has cut lines. It does have a color. The color is consistent. It's not showing whether it's up or down. Like it's not color using encoding data with the color, but that's fine. It doesn't need to in this case. Be improved is possibly having a zoom feature to make it easier to hover over each of the different points in the graph. Okay, so in which way? Why don't you try moving that slider at the bottom?
Yeah, but true, but I think it would be better if there was like, I don't know, like a way you could hit like maybe a plus button, because I think there's a lot of different small points along this that you hover your mouse over. So I don't know if there's like somebody that's really trying to look for a specific
Like a little
value.
microtransaction kind of thing?
Yeah, because when you hover the mouse over, there's like hundreds of little points that you go over. So I don't know. I just thought maybe.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Or you could mouse wheel while it's over top of the visualization itself. So like I'm here, I zoom, I scroll the wheel mouse and I zoom into that area. And then but then it would have to automatically zoom in the bottom part as well to give you the overview. But that would be wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Bit hard to do, but it's a great suggestion. Yeah, love it. Okay, Canadian Euro, nice, Madison. Then we'll look at the other one. So nice. Show stable long-term views. What happened in order to predict the future possible trends? Yeah, literally, we were trying to time or see if we could do anything to time the market. The Canadian dollar was dropping quite nicely compared to the US dollar at the time of us doing it. It was bouncing like here, right? If you are doing the exchange here, you do not want to be doing, depending on, you might either want to or not want to do the exchange exactly here. But notice the scale differences that we have here. Part of the reason we need this is these things have huge fluctuations unless you zoom out, and then suddenly those fluctuations are little micro fluctuations. So if I zoom in really closely, it's only showing the proper range at any given time. The difference is 0.62 versus 0.66. Now, if you look over here, that's this, is that this entire thing right here? And this is for 1 year. If you do the 5-year trend, what do you end up seeing? See the scope generally, how the rate did. Yep. But I don't know if you guys remember, there was actually a time that the Canadian dollar was worth more than the US dollar in your lifetime, no less, which is really weird. Okay, exchange trade. Let's do that's a 10-year trend. But notice the difference. It goes from 0.94 to 1.458. Right? If you were here, that's a bad place to be exchanging or a great place to be exchanging, depending. Same thing right here. You'll also maybe notice season trends as well. So if I'm in here though, all right, not so bad to be exchanging right around here. Right? If you don't have the context, you don't necessarily see all the subtle details. It doesn't look that extreme right here until you realize that that is the absolute high point compared to all the other trends in the past 10 years. That is you're not going to get that again for another, 5 years or whatever the case is. And by the way, you can also pan along to here. Right? little cat bounce here at 1.21. These are, it doesn't seem like that much of a change, but that's the equivalent of thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars when you do the exchange rate. If you're selling a house in the U.S. and moving that money to Canada, that is a lot of money. Like a 1 cent difference will make a change of thousands of dollars. Well, $1,000, let's say. Nice. And let's do Andrew, and then we'll move on. U.S. Canadian dollar exchange of both countries. Now we're able to translate the amount of the prices. Price and the exchange rate. Okay. Constant pop-ups about creating an account. Yes, absolutely. That's just user interface crap design. So Andrew is pointing out the fact that it's like, hey, do you have an account? Do you have an account? That's a new feature for them. It's garbage, and I hate obsessive pop-up, annoyances. I had an account. I'm less likely to use them again after these pop-ups. No one gives you the data you need to exchange. Need an account. In my opinion, I would go Chrome for an exchange rate. And I go to XE if I need more data. Absolutely, because Chrome is going to, Google itself is going to give me approximately the right data. But again, I like pointing out, and maybe obsessively so, where things go really, really wonky. This is the 1 year trend for GameStop. The 5-day trend for GameStop seems perfectly fine. The 1-day trend for GameStop, well, actually, I don't know anything at all for the 1 day. The 5-day trend seems like it's just a normal business that's going up in stock market price. Well, sort of. 150% is pretty extreme, but maybe it's a great company. Hey, look, it's a great company. It's the 5-year trend where you go, there's something really strange going on there. Like, not a little strange, extraordinarily strange going on with that stock price. And some people go, well, that's the time to buy it. And you're like, no, that's the time when everyone's just throwing money and there's something weird going on and you have no idea. Like, I don't know if we can do Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. Holy crap, we can do cryptocurrencies. Can we just click cryptocurrency and Bitcoin? I'll throw Bitcoin in here. There we go. So that's the 1-day trend for Bitcoin. And it goes from 68,000 to 72,000. The 1 year looks like that. Hey, that's actually looking pretty good, surprisingly. Here is the long-term trend. It actually is going up, but it does these little crashes down. And now is not the time to buy Bitcoin, because it could fall down at any given time. There's Litecoin. My barber was telling me about Litecoin. Like, do not buy it into a cryptocurrency when your barber is giving you financial advice about cryptocurrency. I think he bought it around here. No, 5 year to date. Yeah, I think he bought it around here. Nice downward trend. And it can go back up again, but it's very volatile. But the context is a big deal. Okay. Nice. Thanks, everyone. All right. So, by the way, Accordion Drawings. The idea is that it can extend this way. It may or may not extend this way, or be stretchable this way. It doesn't stretch in both directions at the same time. It's a really old idea. It gives you focus with context, but here's the, so it squishes one surface by expanding another one. Fine, it has to do that. There's only a certain amount of screen real estate. The one thing that Tamara Munsnar brought to the table that everyone went, oh my God, that's the missing piece, back in 2003 even, is guaranteed visibility. If I need to know about this particular thing, if I need to know about the Ontario price of electricity, for example, or if I need to know about a particular school district or a particular area, if that's extremely important to me, no matter what other stuff I'm looking at, I might want that to always be visible. Even if it gets swished down, it's still visible. That's some of the point. So guaranteed visibility means that no matter how many items you have there, you will make sure that that thing is shown, which doesn't seem like much, but it's what lets you find your way again. It's putting the Parliament buildings on the map so that you can always find it. It's finding the looking at Carlton or looking at your res in Carlton at all times, no matter what zoom level you're at. Having your home pointing up on a Google map. Or having certain key places that you want to make sure that you always keep track of. It's so that no matter what the scale is, you know where you are. That's part of the overview. And it's a key point of the overview. All right. If you want to play around with this, here is a fisheye lens in action with a network diagram. Turns out some people have actually tried this, by the way, and I do not recommend it. Carl was not a big fan of it, but Carl Goodwin, he's a professor at the University of Saskatchewan, did a lot of fisheye work, fisheye lens work. He did a lot of, what was the other thing he was working on? He's done a bunch of different research projects, but one of the people doing work on a fisheye lens, thought it would be a nice homage to him, called the Carl Goodwin effect. If you put a fisheye lens and attach it to an eye tracker so that you know where the person's eyes are going, and you produce a fisheye lens depending on where the eyes are going. Seems like a reasonable thing, right? So if I move my eyes this way, it automatically zooms in. It turns out it'll make you vomit. In case you're wondering, if you think you have a grand idea, nope, it will make you vomit, because the fact that your entire world is distorting as soon as you're looking around is very disorienting and it makes you really sick. So he called it the Goodwin effect. Carl was not a big fan of it. Here is our Catasian distortion along independent axis. This is what a rubber sheet navigation would look like, except for I can move it and keep it there in place. And here is a distortion, a Cartesian distortion of just a bubble chart. Okay, all of those things, by the way, just readily available on D3. And I think even VegaLite gives it to you for free. Here's the issues with it. If you're trying to do spatial judgments, it is garbage. If I want to show how far I need to go over here, if I'm distorting the geometry, I don't know anymore. If I'm trying to compare two things, I can't, like things that are in the context versus things that I'm focusing on right now, I can't anymore. I can only do that if the geometry stays stable. This is why these fisheye lenses and the distortion views don't always work. There is an actual cognitive overhead and an overhead visually what you have to present to people to allow people to track the distortion. If I cannot infer what the distortion effect is, I can't make a proper judgment call what's going on. So there's an overhead to doing that tracking. So I need to put grid lines in. I need to put proper shading in there. Maybe I need to actually keep track of what's going on when I distort things. It's just another thing to worry about. And target acquisition is a problem. Anyone that has a Mac has hit this. You may not have realized it. And I get very angry with the Mac docking bar, and yet no one seems to mind. It's actually a known issue, and that people just sort of ignore as a known issue. Try and move quickly to one part of your docking bar, really as fast as you can at some point in time. See how well you do. If I'm trying to find, something on the screen, I just do this, right? I just moved. If I'm moving to N, boom. I move really quickly, and then there's a micro adjustment at the end. That is what we do when it comes to target acquisition, like moving your mouse and clicking something. With the Mac docking bar, you move your mouse, all the things shift underneath you, the moving target, and now you have to go, you overstep it, and then you have to walk all the way back to hit your target again afterwards. And it's more of a fling thing to find the target you're looking for. You may have gotten better at it, but it's still really hard when the target's moving underneath you. It's hard enough to click this C quickly, let alone if the C is moving underneath you. So that leads to another problem with fisheye lenses and with the examples of docking bar. And when they actually do the research on this, it's kind of a mixed bag of results, like separate views with an overview plus a detail tends to give better numbers when it comes to how we do navigation. Fisheye follow-up. A lot of people don't like the distortion after a while. They think it's cool at first, and then they go like, "That's annoying." Okay. And what's being shown, it's sort of selective filtering. I don't think you're going to be using this. So the distortion is just one of the possibilities. You can do other things. The thing to keep in mind for your projects is you have too much data, get out of the way, don't show it all at once. It does not work. If you show every last little detail about stock prices, for example, you will not be able to, if you try and show all the details, you will not see any of the details. So what you're trying to do is focus their attention at one thing, the thing that they say that they're looking for right now, and give enough detail on the outsides, the context, so they can figure out where to go next. That's what this whole process is about. Okay. I have a little bit more time. I was going to split this halfway between the two, but because they're all sort of linked hand in hand. Filtering and aggregation relates to focus plus context. So I'm just going to jump straight into this thing. Because I'm doing overview plus context, because I'm doing some details in one thing, those other approaches are predominantly, there's oftentimes spatial distortions or spatial overview plus detail, but it doesn't have to be spatial. I could be showing all the attributes for the thing I'm looking for, and none of the attributes for the other data sets. Fine. Filtering and aggregation is just removing stuff. It allows me to combine stuff, combine information, give you an aggregate. This is actually a problem that I'm going to bring up when you guys do your presentation. Sorry to pick on you guys over and over again, green monsters, but this is something that I want to bring up. I think it relates to other people as well. Aggregate data is not the same as raw data. Aggregate data is really great for some things, not so great at other things, and you sort of have to walk this fine line. Same with the investors group, right? The data dudes. You have aggregate data about investment groups. You do not have each individual company. And as a result, it's very powerful in terms of what you're doing, but you hide a lot of the details with aggregate data, or you can. Same with filtering. If I remove some of the data, if I just blatantly remove the data, I remove all the data involving the service industry, or if you're looking at investments, I'm removing all restaurant data, for example. It's going to change how I view the other data. It doesn't give me the context. So filtering is to remove stuff. Aggregation is to take data and smush it down. Other ways of looking at our data. So when we looked at focuses in context, we were looking at the user selects a region or a focus for navigation and selection, and we can provide context through aggregating our data, reducing it, or changing the layers. So aggregation would be a great thing for the context. It's also great in general, but if I want the context, maybe I want to see the average, instead of showing the actual number of people that go to a sledding hill throughout the day, I could just say the average number of people that go to that sledding hill as a number. It gives me the context. It doesn't give me the detail. Aggregates are great for context. What you want to do is carefully pick what you show, and oftentimes it's aggregate data, to hint at what you're not showing. That's what the overview plus detail thing is, or what focus and context is. Pick what you show, hint what you're not showing. And we talked about this, that I can show what's underneath here by just having an aggregate data, having some kind of indicator of what other details I'm leaving out are. Or I can put overviews, I can do different lenses, or I can distort the geometry. I can have multiple different views. For filtering and aggregation, we got to figure out why we're doing this and what the benefits are and what techniques we have available to us. Well, there's a surprisingly large number of techniques. So a filter, here's the idea of a filter. I chop off stuff. It could be I remove items. It could be I remove attributes, but I am removing stuff based on some criteria. So if I want to remove items, I want to remove provinces that have an energy usage below a certain point. I want to remove all areas of COVID tests in the area that are not currently visible on the map. Those are all filters. Just anytime you're removing stuff, it's a filter. Whether you want to think of it as a filter or not, it's a filter, essentially. I can also remove attributes. So I could show all the areas of Ottawa, but not all the details. So I'm only showing the number of people visiting the COVID site, not the number of people visiting the COVID site, the wait times, this, that, and the other thing. When I zoom into that, maybe I show more of those details. So I can filter attributes, remove how many of the details I show. Aggregation is what I do with you guys, right? If we have your homeworks, it would be a classic example. How well did you do on the exam? Well, I say the average was a 68%. The standard deviation was this. It's aggregate data. It doesn't say how you did on the exam. It's how the class did on the exam. It tells you how you did relative to the class as well. But it's not the same as whether you know the information. It doesn't say anything about you. It is the class's data. And you can hide all sorts of sins with aggregate data. And so when we're doing reduction, notice that our aggregate data and our filtering, we are reducing the amount of stuff that we're seeing, allowing us to not be overwhelmed with the amount of information we're seeing. So how do we reduce complexity? That is the constant perennial problem with visualizations. This is what we as a field constantly deal with. And so when at the beginning of term, when everyone's like, I'm using a pie chart and that's going to be all I'm doing, I'm like, because I know what the issue always ends up being is what we're trying to do is push more data to people or make it more immediately obvious, which means we have too much data and we have to reduce complexity. That is the constant struggle that we have. If we just show the minimum amount, you don't get enough context. You don't get the full picture. There's a huge fly factor. If I just show you a pie chart where I say Ontario, I'm picking on you guys because I haven't been picking on you for a while, for the Green Monsters group, Ontario uses more energy. Of course they use more energy. They have more people. If you just say Ontario uses more energy, you are either you're convincing people based on a wrong premise, or it's not giving the full. I don't trust the data at all, right? You just say they use more energy. If I say they use more energy per person, maybe there's some other piece of information there that's missing. So I would assume in Saskatchewan, they might use more energy per person simply because it's colder in the wintertime than, let's say, Victoria or British Columbia in general. Right? They don't have the heat issue that the Alberta or Saskatchewan has. Maybe if you're more sparsely populated, maybe per person you end up using more energy. There's a whole lot of little nuance in there that just an aggregate more energy per person doesn't cover. It doesn't tell you the story. It doesn't allow you to really understand what's going on with the data. So when we have a lot of data, we need to then simplify things afterwards. But if you oversimplify things, then you don't get the full story. So we can derive new data. That is our aggregate data set. I figure out what the average per industry is. I figure out how many COVID injection sites there are in the city or in this area of town. How many COVID cases we have in the area of town. You can derive new data. That's one way of doing it, and remove the old one or not show it right away. We could change the data over time. Right? I don't show all the stock market prices or all the life expectancy. I show right now or last year or this year. I don't show everything at once. I show like 2019's rate compared to 2020. Or I change it over time. That's actually what I'm asking for here, right? I press play and you see it animate over time. I can do multiple facets. I can do different views of the data set from multiple viewpoints to get the full picture. We just did focus plus context or focus and context. So you're looking at this, but I give the overview, the context surrounding it. And I can reduce by filtering. And that's what everyone jumped on that one. Great. It's one of our foundational things that we're looking at. And my phone is ringing for some reason. God. Yeah, it's my mom and dad phoning. Yes, it's even 40-year-olds have this particular issue when it comes to lecturing. So yes, my parents are phoning me. Anyways, reduction is one of those things that everyone did. That was a great idea. It's needed, but you got to do it with a certain amount of subtlety. Okay. Uh, for reduction, what we need to do is we're decreasing the amount of data shown. So it's one of our ways we can do reduction of the amount of complexity, but you need to make sure that you don't just hide stuff. If you just hide stuff, it's when you have a filter, like when you have a filter that you just don't show and you can't find that thing anymore. I don't know if you've ever done one of those things where you've turned on a filter, you forgot about the filter, you do go about your business, and then you don't know why all your information is wrong. That's the issue with complexity reduction, with just reducing or removing stuff. If I filter out all the people in the class that that are in one group and not another group, or that go a C or not, other things. I'm trying to think of a good example. Oh, I checked the average of all the students for the final exam. I then filter out all the people that did not submit any of the homeworks and got their average. If I forget that I put that filter in there, the average that I'm telling Chris Johnson when I say what my average is way higher than the actual average. I want to make sure that I don't get that kind of distortion. I can reduce items or attributes, one of the two. So here's filtering. I can eliminate items. I can eliminate attributes. So if each one of these is a row of data, an item, I remove certain items, like COVID testing places. Attributes are some of the data associated with each item. Aggregate makes new data, and I can remove the old data afterwards, theoretically at least. Here's the issue, though. So filtering, everyone understands, it's easy to compute. It's also easy to forget stuff. With aggregation, though, there's no missing elements. Everything's still visible. It's just I've hidden the nuance in there. So how do I summarize it? Depending on how I summarize it, I will get different results. We will see an example of this next time around when we look at gerrymandering. Gerrymandering should be pronounced gerrymandering. I always mix it up. Gerrymandering. It's the U.S. How the U.S. figures out who their representatives in the House are, depending on the districts that they're in and how they voted. And it turns out that that is really, really, really biased and problematic. And we'll look at that next time around. But how I do it, if I just say the average house price in Ottawa gives me a very different number than the median house price in Ottawa, because the median house price doesn't get pulled around by these extreme values like the mean does. And so how I summarize it will actually dictate how people view the data at the end. So how do we filter? I want to point out dynamic queries and then we'll stop at that. Okay, so a dynamic query, we'll talk about this. It's to the point that it used to be a big lecture for most visualization classes. You'd spend a lot of time talking about what a dynamic query is, and now everyone just knows what it is. You just don't know that you know what it is. Then we have item filtering. You can filter by item, you can filter by attribute. Fine. Dynamic query. Hopefully I'll have a good example of a dynamic query. Okay, we've already talked about this. We looked at this already, but a dynamic query is maybe a bit more subtle than that. This might be that's not a dynamic query. I'm trying to think of a good dynamic query here. Let me see. Where would I find a good dynamic query? Dynamic queries are weird things because you just take them for granted. If I look at a hotel website, almost any hotel website or any kind of, so let's see if I can do that. Any kind of thing for hotels. So hotel rates, Ottawa. Let's see if Expedia does a dynamic query. It should. Okay. We're going to put in a pool. Okay, so popular filters, we're going to put a pool. And then it's going to be less than $300 a night. And I'm going to include breakfast as well. All right. By the way, notice that they have to show what the filters are up here. When I put in a filter, you have to put it up there because otherwise you will forget that you put that filter, especially if these get collapsed down afterwards. And here's the key for Dynamicquery. You didn't realize I was doing something special there. That is huge, what I just did. And people take it for granted. In fact, me just typing in Ottawa hotel deals Dynamicquery. I start my query while I am doing it, while I'm changing things, I automatically start filtering and aggregating or figuring out what the query is while I'm typing. It seems trivial, except for you didn't have this until 1996. It comes from research, actually, from Ben Schneiderman's group. Maybe it's earlier than 96. But the idea that you can do a query, start typing something in, or start moving a slider, and it automatically adjusts what you're seeing, changed everything. It's to the point what you used to have was this. I would type in a series of queries. I do this, and then I go down to the bottom and I'd say search. And if I didn't have anything show up, then I go, whoops, that sucks. And I go back and I remove this filter and I press search. Oh, still nothing showing up. And I go to this one and I remove breakfast included and I press search. It was slow, arduous, and my queries, my questions changed. It's the difference between thinking about my code when I'm coding, thinking about my code in Visual Studio versus pulling out a pad of paper and doodling something. It's the difference between breaking out acrylic water paints, painting out the form of painting as your doodle versus doodling on with pen and paper or pencil and paper. We want doodling. With a dynamic query, you get that immediate feedback right away. You can play around with ideas. You can play around with your filters. You're not formally doing step by step. And it makes a world of difference in terms of how you filter, how you interact with your data. If you can get a dynamic query, it is orders of magnitude more powerful in terms of your ability to interact and deal with the data than doing this formalized, I shall now press search. And so other previous iterations of some of your projects had you guys going to the end, putting in some criteria and pressing search. And it doesn't work remotely as well. It seems like it should work, but it doesn't, because it gets in the way with how people actually interact with or process or how they complete their task. Okay. With that, it is a couple minutes over. We're going to take a mini break here. We're going to pick this back up with your talks. I'm going to make sure each one of you, when you're about to present, tell me who's actually presenting. I'll give you co-host access, and then you can talk about your project. You need to be clear enough that other people know. About 10 minutes each. We're not hardcore timing it, but about 10 minutes each, and enough time for questions for other people to ask questions about your system or give you suggestions. Because you need enough clarification, or it needs to be clear enough for other people to give you useful feedback. Okay, so we'll take a little break, stretch it out, and then when we come back, we'll go over each of your presentations. Thanks, everyone. Do you want me to record the presentations, by the way? I'll leave it up to you guys. I'll just pause it temporarily. Sure.
Yeah. All right. Are we all good to go? Okay, sick. Okay, so the users for our program are commuters in Ottawa over the age of 13 who are driving, busing, walking, jogging, exploring, and cycling through the city.
All right. So with our visualization, what we're hoping they're going to be able to do is they're going to be able to plan their routes for the day. So whether it be at the beginning or end of their workday, or if they just want to go for a walk, by using our visualization, they'll be able to know where in the city around where they want to go are construction zones, If there's crossing guards available, so let's say it's a parent planning for their child, they want to know if there's going to be like a safe intersection there for them. And then they'll also be able to filter by traffic flow. So if you're driving, you can avoid some like high congestion areas, or even if you're walking and there's a lot of construction going on the street and you don't really feel the need to walk on the road with the cars going 70 miles per hour, you'll be able to see where those kind of problem areas in the city are. Okay. Transitions.
So how can
So
they
you
use
can
our
take it away with how?
Yeah. So how they use our system to solve their problems, they're going to be using a mouse to locate the displayed diamonds, the position of the diamonds, the icons, and the colors. They're going to hover over those traffic diamonds. They can hover over to enlarge, click as a tooltip. You can click alternate routes, zoom into desired areas. The position of the diamond will indicate to the user where in the city the delay is. The icon will display what type of disturbance that is. Icon colors will indicate construction. Orange will be construction. Crossing guards will be green. Crash will be red. Colors are used to indicate the environment of the area. They're driving in like waterways, roads, or greenery. By hovering over a traffic diamond, it will grow partially to help them indicate the icon on it. If it's clicked, a tooltip will appear and describe the delay in more detail. For example, like street names, end date, crossing guard location. By clicking on alternate routes, it'll put up an additional bar graph that shows the traffic flow in surrounding streets, allowing the user to avoid the delays.
So we've kind of already covered this, but why would they want to use our visualization? It's because we can find that the construction in the city can be a bit difficult to find out about. Like if you're not watching the news, and if the news isn't covering that part of the city, you won't ever really know where construction is until you get there and your route is set back. So by using this interactive map ahead of time, they'll be able to see, like visually see on a map where the delay is, because even if you get the street names, you might not know exactly where that is, and you might not know that's near your favorite Starbucks that you like to walk to. So it'll help the user kind of visually dissect where all the delays in the city are. You can also find the most efficient way to your desired destination. So like we said, with the additional bar graph, you'll be able to see if there's a really big build up, like a construction build up or a crash on, let's say, Elgin, you'd be able to see the surrounding streets like in their specific traffic flows. And you could also see if there's a crash on those ones as well. So the user will just have their discretion to choose the fastest way to their destination according to what they rank in their heads, you know? So here are a couple early sketches we have. So this is our big one with the overview and like the problem areas and the road resurfacing and stuff. That was our first one. This is our first iteration of the tooltip. So like Lauren said, when you hover over the traffic diamond, you'll be able to see additional information about the types of vehicles and kind of like motorists going through that area. So you'll be able to see how many cyclists go through, how many pedestrians, trucks, and cars. And then here's also a really great visualization that Laura mocked up about the information on the surrounding streets. So let's say, like I said, Elgin's built up, then according to these bar graphs, you can see the traffic flow for the 5 streets closest to it. Okay, so in terms of our final sketch, this is roughly what it'll look like. So you'll be able to zoom, ideally you'd be able to zoom in and out and kind of filter what part of the city you're trying to look at, because obviously if you're just looking to commute downtown, you don't want to be looking at Orleans or Canada South or anything like that. We have our problem area zones marked with the orange traffic diamonds. You can see the crossing guard locations as well. And you can see in the top corner, we have a filterable option. So then if you choose to filter, you can filter by just construction zone, just crossing guards, or just traffic flow, or any combination of all three. It's really up to the user and their discretion. Yeah, and then here's what it looked like zoomed. And as we said before, ideally what we'll be able to do by the end of this project is when you hover over the individual diamonds, it will like enlarge. So you'll be able to see exactly like which one you're looking at. And you can see like, because it's a little hard to read construction here, if you hovered over it, it'd be easier to read construction as the delay. Yeah. Is there anything you want to add, Lauren?
No, I think you covered it.
So that's about our presentation for working women on the go.
Gotta learn to unmute faster. So questions. You do not want me asking questions, guys, so you're helping them out by asking questions.
Actually, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Yeah. First one, I'm not sure if the construction zones are updated. So, for example, if the construction is ended in one location and we are able to commute to that location, do we have some kind of notification that we can commute, or the construction is over, or if a construction zone started this in a location? I'm not sure about is it a live like update for the data, or just a data set and you're working with this data set which is static? So this is my first question. Second question is, you have like diamonds on the map. So do these diamonds distinct between the different types of commuters? So for example, construction zone could block the driving and the buses, but it could be accessible for walkers, for example. I can walk through these construction zones. Maybe there is a path for walkers, but it's blocked for cars or buses. So I'm not sure if there's a distinction between different types of commuters, or it's like if there is a construction zone, it's blocked for all kinds of commuters. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. But overall, it's a nice visualization. Nice work. Thank you.
Okay. So for regards of the second question of if it's accessible for different types of commuters, that wasn't in our original scope. Like we hadn't thought of that, but that's now that you've brought that up, that's definitely something I'd want to include, because it would make a lot of sense. If you're like just looking for a walk, you wouldn't really want to hear about like road resurfacing or something like that. Like you'd still be able to walk along it.
Wouldn't it still make a difference though?
Sorry?
Wouldn't it still make a difference? So like I'm walking my kids home from school, they're doing road resurfacing. The traffic and everything is a bit bonkers as a result. Everything's very loud. It's stinky, it's everything else like that. And they may have to walk on the street a bit, but they can still walk. They're not actually stopped, but they'll have to walk on the street. It still impacts them despite the fact it's not blocked.
True. Yeah.
So it depends on the circumstances. It's if you don't have that differentiation, then you don't have the ability to differentiate those different types of construction. It's a nice idea, but I don't, if you can't differentiate it, don't panic over that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And in regards to the first question, we absolutely do have dates as to when the construction starts and ends. If I believe that was your question, like those are included in the tooltip.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Okay.
Other people, you know, you want to ask questions. Okay, I'm going to pick on everyone else as well at the same time. Everybody has the same issue, and it's probably because I didn't talk about it. Oh, there you go. Will has a question. What inspired you to pick this data set?
Well, speaking from my personal experience, I've just started driving recently, like about a year ago, and I do a little bit of driving downtown, and driving downtown is already scary enough, but there's been quite a few times when I've encountered like I have to like reroute like in the middle of my route, and it completely like throws me off my game. It like adds so much more anxiety to the already stressful situation of driving downtown. So I knew that I kind of wanted to take this opportunity to remedy that. That's my personal story with this.
So my suggestion would be lean into that. For a lot of people, they have a personal story and they go, well, I want to make it general. No, it's a one-term project. You cannot help joggers and bicyclists and drivers and pedestrians. Each one of them would have to have a separate kind of use case, and you'd have to do a whole lot of design for each individual group. So if you want to help drivers, which is you want to know crosswalks, not because it's safe for kids. You want to know crosswalks because it's going to delay you and you want to not hit kids. It's more of
True.
a obstacle, not a pro necessarily, but that's fine. It's still an important piece of information. Same with construction. So if you lean on predominantly on drivers and you have the other information for pedestrians, fantastic, but lean on drivers then, right, as your main thing. My question is, why diamonds all the way across? This is the problem I had with everybody's thing, and it's understandable why it pops up, but if you're just showing, let's say, a blob of color, or you're using color for each individual thing, and you just have a circle with colors, it's not redundantly encoded. So if you're red, green, colorblind, or if you just don't notice it, or if you don't map the color purple to this, traffic accidents or something like that, color alone is not normally, people normally, when they do an icon, they do color and a shape, or color and an icon, or color and this, color and that. If you have diamonds all the time, they're going to look very, very similar. Even if the colors are different, they're going to look very similar. Did you think about, or potentially you could think about change, diamonds can still work because the icons inside are going to be different, but you could have it so that the traffic accident is a triangle, higher priority, diamonds for pedestrians, construction, some other kind of shape. So you change the shape of the point encoding that you're using to make it a bit more slap in the face obvious, if it works. Something to play around.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I don't think that'd be too hard to implement, to be fair. So yeah, we'll definitely be doing that.
But to be fair, also my suggestions for pedestrian crossings, all this, I'm like, what's pedestrian crossing again? And I saw your thing. I'm like, yeah, that's a pedestrian crossing. Everyone will know it's pedestrian crossing. Done. Right? You don't have to.
Yeah.
Right. You're looking to lean into what people know for construction, what they know for pedestrian crossings, what they know for accidents. Use those same icons if you can, because it's going to. What you don't want to do is reinvent the wheel. Okay, Ottawa Sports Facilities 5th. Okay. Other questions? That was really nice. There's so many things one can pick on any given project, and I have feedback on all your slides, what you've submitted on Tuesday already. So, the other thing for you guys, start zooming in somewhere originally, right? You're not going to look at Ottawa. You're going to look at your neighborhood. So you can either start saying, by the way, we're presuming or assuming that you've already put in your address or something like that. Just pretend. Or you can ask them for their address, whatever works for you, but you're going to be zoomed in. You're not going to be all of Ottawa for construction. It doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Other questions, unless you have one of those nasty commutes that go all the way to Canada from like Alta Vista.
That used to be mine.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I'm from Stittsville to Carleton was pretty bad.
Oh, yeah. That's brutal. And I did downtown yesterday. I was so glad that the traffic in downtown right now is nothing compared to what it normally is. Because I had hit construction, had to work around it, all the one-way streets and stuff like that. And it's useful to know, especially if you can't touch your GPS while you're driving and stuff like that. And normally you'd have like 5 cars in your trunk.
Yep, all honking at you.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Seems like very useful for a lot of people. Yep, great. So who's next group? You guys can turn off your cameras. Thank you very much, guys. It's Steven's group. There's Steven. There's Steven.
Yep. So I think everybody's here and we're good to go.
All right.
Turn on the camera real quick here. There we go. Okay. Let me do this here. Okay. All right. So are you sharing the slides or Can I? Oh wait, I
already
share
have
my screen
co-host
here.
here.
Oh, okay. Sorry, didn't notice.
I'm just
that.
waiting
That's
for
my
you to
bad.
put up your title slide just to see reactions.
Yep. There we go. Okay. Is that? Can you see that there? Looks good.
Yep, I see it.
Okay. So, hey everybody. This is the very best group visualization overview. Myself, Steven, and partners Isaac, Emmanuel, and Philip. So,
all right. So what we want to do, and as well need to include, our main task is to figure out how effective red light cameras are in Ottawa. Red light cameras, but specifically in Ottawa. And so we start with our map that shows all the red light cameras and how it's changed in recent years. There's different things on the map that you can click on. You can click on the ward, which will give you information about red light violations throughout the years, which can be filtered through months and years. You can click on intersections, which gives you information about the average red light violations and them individually. And you can also click on the city, which just gives you the whole overview of the red light cameras. And as I said before, you can filter these out between the month and the year. Steven, did you want to?
Steven, I think you're muted.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you're muted.
Yeah. My bad. All right. So the who, what, when, why, and how. In terms of who are the users, it's the residents of Ottawa, specifically drivers of Ottawa who are concerned with the efficacy of red light cameras. What do? Well, they drive around Ottawa and they follow the traffic light laws. If they get tickets, they generally will get frustrated and begrudgingly pay them off, as some of us have done. Why do they do it? They do it to drive safely. They want to avoid getting tickets. I mean, that's the main goal, and not get a criminal record, which for obvious reasons can harm future opportunities for many people. In terms of how they can use this visualization to help, drivers in Ottawa can use this visualization that we've designed to make themselves sort of more aware of where certain cameras are placed, and just to be more careful in general while driving around Ottawa. And in the bigger picture, the visualization will also be very useful for determining the efficacy of red light cameras in general, to see, okay, well, are these cameras actually doing their job in preventing less violations happening or not? So that's sort of what we're trying to accomplish here.
So when we first get to the map, there is a map that will help. Basically, it'll be the springboard for clicking around and discovering things and seeing how the violations change throughout time. So that way people can figure out by looking around the city how what the violations look like. So when we first get there, we see the map, and when we click, we can see, we'll look at the different ways we can change the line graphs so that we get more information about the violations. So right now we're looking at it, we see all of the theoretical cameras. There would be more than this, but it's enough for the purpose of this draft. So right now we only have individual cameras clicked, no average yet. We're just looking at it through the year, so it's monthly and not yearly, but we'll change that as we will see. And yeah, so we've got the map. And then when we go to, when we click on a ward, when we click on a ward, we'll see the line for the average amount of violations for that ward throughout a year, or month, as we'll also see. So throughout the year, the years, or throughout the months. And then by clicking on a ward, the line chart shows the amount of violations for each intersection in that ward. So you can look at the different intersections and divide that up. And you can also change between the wards. So that allows comparing, okay, is it busier downtown? Is it how do the wards compare, and how do individual cameras in that ward compare? So is it wards themselves that make it busier, that make violations busier, or is it specific intersections that are maybe outsets that are maybe different compared to others? And then you can turn on or off the individual cameras and average camera data to more specifically look at, well, if you just want to see the average, right? And then you can compare the averages, or if you just want to look at individual cameras. And then if you want to look at the yearly data, this is where we can really see, okay, how efficient are red light cameras? Because if you look at the greater trends, right? If we see that the average amount of violations per camera is dropping throughout the years, well, that would indicate that they're working, right? Because adding red light cameras means that on average, we're seeing less violations. Whereas if it stays stagnant, or if we see an increase, well, that would indicate that red light cameras are not necessarily doing their job. So that's why we might want to compare yearly instead of monthly. And then we can also click on an intersection, and I'll hand it off to Isaac for that one.
Yeah, so in addition to the wards, we also want to show data on the individual intersections. So while for most of us, we are looking at just 1 year from 2019, we actually do have data sets, 5 different ones from 2015 to 19. So in this case, if someone clicks on a specific intersection, the corresponding line chart will show the average amount of violations for that intersection for each of the available years. So this would allow us to compare one specific intersection over 5 different years to see how the number of violations changed over time. So if they were to decrease, then it's possible that drivers are becoming more aware of the presence of the cameras and are in result driving more carefully. But on the other end, if they increase, it's most likely because since there are more number of cameras, then there will be more violations. Any questions?
All right, let's get some questions on the go and see what people are, if we have a chat anywhere. Is there any chart to visualize the difference between the wards? It should be, at least.
Yeah, so there's the individual intersections around like per ward, I suppose. Yeah, and then we can turn on and off the averages. And then if you like select different wards, like select multiple wards, that would turn on the averages for those wards.
Well, think about it. I mean, if I'm looking at the city of Ottawa in general, I might want to know the average number of violations in Ottawa in general, but perhaps I might want to see the wards as a comparison as one of my defaults in there. It is the aggregate per ward. Hey, aggregate data and filtering. Yay. You guys are deep into filtering and aggregation, actually. Also, overview plus detail. The fact that if you have 5 years, 5 different line graphs, all using the same calendar, it, for me at least, maybe I'm wrong, but since the time is on the axis down here, it seems weird to have different lines for different years on line graph. If you had the overview of all 5 years or whatever the time series is, and then you just saw the snippet, or you just showed the entire thing for all 5 years, you would see the trend line over time, because it's a continuation, right? It's not, you could do it as each line being a different year and seeing patterns over time, but what I don't know, for me at least, it's I would have thought of them as 5 discrete different things, not a continuation on time. 5 different lines would be 5 different wards. That makes sense. 5 different lines is 5 different years doesn't make intuitive sense for me. I don't know about everyone else. If everyone else says, yeah, leave it as lines, go for it. But the intuitive nature of it is that it's a continuation of that time frame, and therefore if you snip it up and then stack them on top of each other, it feels kind of weird and wrong. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, so instead of having like stacking years, you have just years in one single sort
One
of
long ass
one
year.
line. Yeah, one long
And then you
line
can-
of the different years that are going. Okay.
And you can move it around. That giant button, I don't know what that's all about. There's a giant button for years.
Oh yeah, I can go back to that.
Little clunky.
Yeah,
that thing.
for this
Yeah.
thing, yeah. I think that's to toggle between yearly and monthly, to switch in between for there. So
I'm
you
gonna
see
pull a muscle just switching that toggle though. Like it's huge.
It's only
That's
just the prototype. It's
Mine-
just
I
the
know, I
early
know.
design.
just putting that out there. By the way, why those particular pins? They're the defaults, right?
Yeah, they're the default, I believe.
Mhm.
Aha. So if you can, it would be freaking awesome if you had an icon that went thematically with the rest of your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Pin suggests a place, not necessarily, which is what it is, but you're doing red lights.
Yeah.
So you could actually put like little other red light thing, little red lights, like traffic signals, or little red blobs for positions in space or something like that. Little red dots. It doesn't have to be like a pin per se, because the pin gives you accuracy at that where it hits, and it gives you a clickable region, a large clickable region. That's why it's shaped this way. But if you're just trying to show all the little red dots everywhere, just little red dots, and then you increase the size of the red dot, or make it a octagonal, or it's not a hexagon, it's an octagon, right? Octagonal for a stop sign, or you can make it a traffic lights, like 3 lights with a bright red at the top.
Yeah.
Use the other colors, something like that. By the way, which word are you looking at right now?
This is an intersection, so this would be like
Oh.
a specific intersection.
Which intersection?
It's not like anyone in general. We're just saying like this.
I think his point is it doesn't. We didn't write like specifically.
You don't need
on
to
the
write it.
intersection number.
You need to highlight it.
Yeah.
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 So when you click something, that got to be like slap in the face. I click a word, that word is highlighted. You color in that word for everyone to go like, oh, that's the one I'm looking at right now.
True.
I go to the pin, I click the pin, boom, that pin is a different color than everything else. That's the pin I'm looking at right now. Yeah, these are, everyone's going to be going through these. I'm trying to motivate people to say, ask questions to your teammates so I don't ask you questions like this from now on for everyone else.
Please ask us questions. Somebody, please just ask a
I'm
question.
just an
Anything.
asshole. Do we have another question?
How was my morning? Well, you know what? It's been going all right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, the
for
point is,
asking.
if you can point out if you notice something that they could improve on their system, that's what I want, because that's part of the learning process for you guys too. When you identify something going wrong with somebody else, it's you learning and them learning. It's just all around good.
Yeah, and you
Well,
guys
wait.
can point out anything because you guys aren't the one implementing it, so lay it on us.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, if
That's
there's
true.
something that looks really off, just tell us.
And tell them how to get out of a traffic ticket as well.
Why is this more useful sets apart from something like Waze that you can use while driving?
Oh,
That's a good question. Waze is good for, so yeah, I've used Waze before. It's good for getting around. I think the main difference though is
Well,
it'd be useful in the sense, sorry, go ahead, Phil.
yeah. So like it is the benefit of the way we're doing it is people can definitely look at like where intersections are and be cognizant of it. But the main goal and our main question was, is it efficient? I don't think that our red light cameras efficient, right? Do they work? Does it help people, or do they just give violations and no one's driving better? I don't think that Waze gives that data unless they have data of like quality of driving over time, which would be sick. But I'm not familiar with Waze's different functions. But yeah, our main goal is to pretty much answer that question: are red light cameras worth having, or do they just make people pay money and be mad at everyone?
that's it. You have a motive. You have a story for what got you interested in this data set. Lean into it. Same as the last group. Nice, fantastic. And
good
you were saying concerned about it, just, you know, you're trying to figure out if they're actually worth their time or if you're just pissing people off, right? Just lead into it. You have you're going to have a bias in it. That's fine. You have a bias. Why you red light cameras are useless or whatever you want to, you may not be able to make that conclusion. You'll have to look at your data set, but it's still, you know, it's your motivation is to try and presumably maybe reduce the number of red light cameras. That seems to be the suggestion, in which case that's perfectly fine. You're trying to reduce the number, you're trying to convince people that red light cameras are not that useful, and that's what it's doing. Nice. Other question? We probably need to move on to the next question, but if people have other questions, I'm more than happy to hear it. All right, who's next? What's the next group? I gotta look at Green Monsters. Who's presenting for Green Monsters?
I will.
Who is that, by the way? Madison, there you go. Thank you. All right, you should be able to go.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I'm just trying to find.
Big green square at the bottom of your screen, but most likely.
Yeah, I just had to change my preferences on my computer to allow me to share. There we go. Oh, I'm gonna have to come back into the meeting. One moment.
You guys can probably talk while she's coming back into the meeting, Sebastian or Andy. So what are you, maybe she's just going to go over the same thing again. Actually, maybe that's not the best way of doing it, but we just got to pick up on time. Is she back in yet?
We'll be back soon, hopefully. Probably.
Madison's back.
Okay,
there we go.
I'm not sure why it wasn't letting me do it before, but yes, I'm ready to.
You're now co-host.
All right, sure.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right, welcome to our group presentation. So our intended audience are future homeowners who might be looking to buy a house or anyone looking to move or relocate, possibly for financial reasons or if they want to look into saving a little bit more energy. So this is also concerning any demographic who's conscious of their energy consumption and might want to cut back on their costs or possibly just their overall home consumption in general. So what are we doing with our graph? We want to give practical home advice so that anyone can look at this and easily be able to identify, okay, my house is from this time period, or this is the amount of people living in this house. This is what I can expect to be paying in this area, or I should look for a different location if I want to be spending less, more, depending on what they're looking for. So it's really tailored to what the person is trying to find. We want to give comparisons of this energy usage compared across various provinces in case you might be looking not just within Ontario. So we want to give the option to have that sort of zoom and filter all across Canada.
Okay, so here we just have our data set that we cleaned up. So it's just separated by the different provinces and then by the different demographics that we chose to include in our visualization. So type of dwelling, dwelling construction date, heated area of dwelling excluding the garage, number of people in the household, and then occupant demographics. And now we just have some of our earlier designs. So this one's just a bar graph showing power used by the different types of houses and then also by the different provinces. This one shows a comparison between energy consumption between, between Ontario and Quebec by different ages of the members in the households. This one is a radar chart that also shows energy consumption of the different house types, but between British Columbia and then the Atlantic provinces. And lastly, this one shows energy consumption also by house type, but the energy consumption is indicated by the size of the circle.
Okay, so here we have sort of our finalish sort of prototype of how we want to make the map work. I do have a link to a website, which is what I have so far visualized. So if you can look at that, you can sort of see the early features I have implemented. But basically the idea is we have a map of Canada. And so at the top, you can see the different sort of demographics you can look at. So you can look at, house type, construction date, number of people in the household. And then at the bottom, you'll see the bar where you can switch between the different sort of layers of that. So if you click on, for example, like when your house was built, you can use the bar at the bottom to see like, oh, houses built after 2011 or houses between 2000 and 2010, for example. So you can sort of cycle between that data. And so you can hover over the map and you can click on different icons on the map. And then that will just show all the information for that. So if you only care about Ontario and you don't want to have to click through every single layer to see all the different house prices, you can just click on Ontario and then it would sort of show you all the stats for Ontario. So that's kind of what we're going for with the graph here.
And more things will be tweaked within it. We're going to change the name of the toggle thing
Also,
from demographics a bit more.
Yeah, if you go to the website, the numbers and everything are all like random, just because I'm still testing out features. So yeah, the data is not final. It's just very sort of rough working on it. But I just want to have I want to have something working for the presentation, just to have something to show off. Yeah.
Andy, I don't know if your mic is on or not.
I might be muted.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to do push to talk, but it kept opening up the window. Why have we created this? We want our users to be able to research how much energy their household consumes, make an educated decision like where to live next. And users can use this data to determine their energy consumption and how they can make changes to be more eco-friendly / save money. And how we will do this, users will be able to draw their own conclusions from the visualization to help guide their decisions when it comes to looking at housing markets. And an interactive component such as the layers below allow users to focus on specific areas of the data and then the link to the website. And that's it.
All right, questions, people. DEI is coming in with Quebec, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. It's really cool that you have this already up and running. That's a really nice visualization so far. The program is coming along nicely.
Yeah, I spent quite a bit of time fighting with Vega Lite to get that to work.
If you haven't started with your Vega Lite yet, expect to fight with it. Very impressive.
Yeah, I would also like to say that I think it's so cool that you guys have a website already up and running, like something functional, like that's insane. And for my question, I was wondering if you guys have any, like, you might not at all, so this might be like completely arbitrary, but if you guys have any like fantastic outliers in your data, I think it'd be really cool to investigate like why they, like, just do like a quick like, hey, like this area is really expensive to live in, like maybe investigate just like why, as like a fun little like addition for people who are looking, like maybe some people who are doing like a historical overview might use it, something like that.
Yeah, well, originally when we were cleaning our data set, we found that one of the outliers was we were completely missing like the age groups from like 18 to 24 simply because
there's no
they
18
just
to
can't be
24
located.
homeowners.
So that's an outlier of our data that we're missing completely. But
same with the territories. We don't know. There's no data from the territories, so we don't know how much energy you use in the territories.
Yeah, so like
that.
just
Thank
like
you.
a little write-up like on the website would be like cool, so people would be like, oh, like maybe it's like really expensive to live in the territories or something.
Yeah, also another thing with our data set was that it sort of groups certain provinces together. So you'll notice like all the Atlantic provinces, they were all grouped under the just Atlantic, right? So I split it into 4 different categories, but all the data for all the Atlantic provinces is going to be exactly the same because it comes from one data set. So that might have to put a little disclaimer there. Same with, I think, Manitoba and Saskatchewan. I think they group that data together too. So that's sort of, so we're relying a little bit with the data because you don't know how much, I don't know the difference between Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, but it just grouped the same. So they look the same on the map.
I almost can't get mad because I too group the Atlantic provinces as like one thing.
Boo. Well, they did the cardinal sin on their write-up. They forgot Newfoundland when they were including the Atlantic provinces.
Failure, automatic failure.
Fail the course right there. No, it's part of the Atlantic province, not part of the Maritimes. That's what the difference. That's the weird distinction. Atlantic provinces includes Newfoundland, but yeah. Saskatoba, I like that.
Saskatoba.
It's a lot easier than Manicatasquan. Oh my god. Other questions? So let's see. Yep. Go ahead. Unless you're muted. I don't know who was asking. Or unless you're typing. All right.
Should I go back to the actual visualization itself?
Attributes, add some visualizations, correlations among attributes. Yeah, so that is
there.
That is a very good suggestion. I at least was thinking about that. I can't remember if I
we kind of discussed it.
But yeah. So we're seeing how the data all lays out, and then we can probably add those features to it because that's just kind of combining different data sets to show.
It's combining different data sets, but it's like a scatter plot works really well for that. Well, not always necessarily, but like a bar chart doesn't really work very well for that. It's the correlations, you sort of need 2 different dimensions at the same time. My issue, and I keep on pointing out to you guys, and I have in a sort of blunt way, and I probably should re-review all of your things. Does anyone else notice the issue when it comes to Ontario versus, let's say, Saskatoon or, well, Newfoundland, if we want to go to
I am aware the fact that Ontario looks the biggest because there are the most people there. But we do have specific information on how many households were actually queried in each province. So we can refine that down to make it actually equivalent. Data here is just kind of random numbers I've thrown in. So this is not representative of the final load.
Yeah,
but we do have a number of houses queried and stuff.
Right, because for all we know, and from looking at the raw data initially, it seems like the older houses use up more energy. That's because there's a lot of older houses as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It might be more energy inefficient as well. But other questions about this is how many of you, I think I already picked on that part as well, which is there are other parts about an older house. It's not just about the energy efficiency. It's an important thing. Sure, I'm all for trying to save energy. Don't get me wrong. There are other factors. Now you could say, if you know your house is not energy efficient because it's older, then you should get it checked out. But so what do you expect people to take as a takeaway for your system when they look at this visualization?
Kind of just like a ballpark on how much they expect to spend on different houses in terms of electricity, right? We're not like saying like, oh, buy a new house because it'll be energy efficient. It's just sort of one of the things that homeowners would want to consider. Because it's like, oh, if I have 4 kids, what's kind of the ballpark of how much power I'm going to spend versus if there's just me and my wife, for example, right? So so that's kind of the takeaway.
Yeah, and you're kind of also going to always be giving up something. Like you're going to be making a compromise in some way when you're finding a house. So if it means you're getting an older house with a bigger size, you might be spending a bit more on electricity, but that's
better schools.
That's life, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So there's different things.
For energy efficiency as well, the other thing that, I mean, you're not expected to have covered that particular point, but for energy efficiency, walking index is huge. The ability to walk somewhere versus having to drive your car to every place you need to go despite the
Yeah.
age of the house. An older house would be in the center of the town, which you don't have to take a car.
Well, originally, that's kind of what we looked at when we were talking with you at one of our first meetings, of like everything you do in your daily life contributing to your carbon footprint. So if you have a car, how many do you have? If you live in the city, you might be a bit more energy efficient. Like it kind of all balances out at some point.
Because yeah, when you were looking at your P3, you were pointing out the fact that single detached houses use up way more energy than all the other houses. But I have a sneaky feeling it's Canada. It's predominantly single detached house for the vast majority of Canadians. And so it's sort of, I think you get efficiencies when it comes to an apartment building, but I'm not sure how radical those efficiencies are unless you normalize it. It's called normalization, by the way. Normalize the data across so that for 100,000 people in an apartment, how much energy are they using versus 100,000 people living in a house? How much energy are they using?
Yeah, so that's like a future thing that we're going to do with our data, is kind of normalize it, I guess.
And you can, you can pre-can it. It maps to the same thing, right? It's your visualization will work whether it's normalized data or not. You just need to show the kind of data you're, or maybe choose what kind raw data versus normalized data as one of your drop-down projections, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other questions? We always run out of time. Sorry, folks. There's 7 groups. I'm not used to that number of groups. It's really coming along nicely. I love the outlines, by the way. Very cool. For the provinces. All right, next group. Who's next? Green Monsters. Number 4, COVID testing. Who's presenting for COVID testing?
I will present the PowerPoint.
All right, let's make you a co-host then. You're up.
So can you see the slides?
Yep.
Okay. So hi everyone, we are the COVID Access Center and Vaccine Locations group. We have me, Leslie, Shuhan, Judy, and Yu Chen. And we will have Leslie to talk about our project description.
Hi everyone. Our group target is to inform Ottawa residents with up-to-date COVID case number in neighborhoods and locations that they can get COVID test and vaccine in order to help them against the pandemic. And our purpose is to make an interactive map to locate test centers and vaccine clinics, and to display case number of each ward, help users filter locations which don't meet their needs, and create routine from users' address to a certain location. And we have some examples of the visualization. So for the first visualization, it shows the vaccine community clinics in the map, and we also made a similar one with the test and vaccine locations on it. So it can help people to find these locations. And for this example, the map is divided into different colors according to the case numbers. So we also made something similar to this. So people are allowed to see the community names and the case numbers in this visualization. And the third one that we have is a table. So it will provide the data that we will use in our visualization. And actually, it provides a lot of detailed information that we need, such as the websites of the testing locations and the phone numbers and their working times, which are the information that we want to include in our visualizations. So let's welcome Shuheng to introduce our target users.
So for the who in our project, our target users are the people who live in Ottawa and wanted to get a COVID-19 test. So whether if you are just wondering if you got COVID or you want to get a test proof for school or travel abroad, or even you just want to experience the process for the tests of COVID. Also, if you just wondering the detailed information around the neighborhood about COVID, like the updated cases or rising rate of the COVID, that's also fine.
Why are we going to do the project? Because now testing and also vaccination has become the public concern in a time of pandemic. And on Ottawa Public Health, it provided a lot of information related to this. We found they are very helpful and can be further visualized. So we are trying to design a more accessible and interactive website to present the data we found. What are we going to do then? We are firstly trying to visualize the location of testing center and where you can get vaccine on the Google Maps Map. And we are also going to create filters to search specific accessibility, such as the child testing or the walk-in option. We also, as we just mentioned before, use different color to rank the case situation in different area of Ottawa. So the user can make their decision where they want to go for the test. We will give some external links to Ottawa Public Health and so provide more information related to COVID-19, not limited to testing and vaccination. Also, we have a nice to have task here is a route planning function to navigate user to the testing centers. But we will prioritize the first 4 tasks and to see if we have time or to accomplish the route planning. Eventually, after the user testing, we are expecting to make list arrows and have an appealing and user-centered web design. Here is the task table. And I want to mention that we put the vaccine to the 3rd importance after the testing, because we find that not everyone now are able to get the vaccine, but only a specific range of people. So we think the testing is more important and we put it in the 1st and the 2nd. Now let's see our early design.
Those pictures on the slide are our early designs, as we wanted to achieve the tasks mentioned by Xiangman. So our first idea of the visualization is to build an interactive map which shows COVID-19 testing locations and also the community clinics where obtain the vaccines. Also, we would like to show the confirmed cases in each neighborhood. So some of us created Coral Plus maps and some of us made bar graphs to show the chain. Our final design combines these features and Aria will explain it more in details.
Yeah, I will do our final sketch description. So this is the map we made on the Google My Map. So generally we have 3 layers of data: the COVID-19 test center locations, the Ottawa neighborhood map, and the COVID-19 vaccine locations. So as you can see, we colored the neighborhoods in transparency range. So if you see darker areas, they mean these neighborhoods has more COVID-19 cases. And also we will provide a direction service and locate your location service on the map. So here's the sample interaction we have. We have the filters of the 3 layers of data, and we will also have filters on these icons of locations. We will have hover effects on the icons and the hover effects on the neighbor areas. And we also want to include the zoom in and the zoom out service on the map. And this function is available through the Google Map API. And then I will go through each interactions one by one. So first is the chat box. The chat box is actually a filter of the data layers. So you can check only one of them or multiple of them. So you can see different combinations of data maps displayed on the Google Map. So if you only check the COVID-19 test center locations, it only displays the plots of the test centers. And if you hover on each icon, it will give you an information window telling you the center name, the address, the opening hours, and its website link. So if users want to make an appointment or just want to check more information about the COVID test, they can go to the link and then jump to their website page. And also for the COVID test centers, we will have a filters on these locations because users may want to, they may require the locations with specific specific services such as children's service, or if the location is walking available, or if they provide non-symptom test. So if you click on the children's service, the map will display the locations that provide tests for children. If you choose walk-in, the locations will be walk-in available. And if you choose the non-symptom test, these locations will provide tests for people who don't have a COVID-19 symptom. But also you can choose multiple of them. Let's say you want to look for a location that provide children's service and also walk-in available. The map will display the location that satisfying your needs. And next, if you only check the Ottawa neighborhood map, it will only display the word map on the Google Map. So also on this page, we will have a case ranking toggle button. So if you click on this, a bar chart of neighborhood case numbers ranking will be displayed on the map. So if you have this map, it will tell you a clear view of the case number of each neighbor, and you can see where has the most COVID-19 cases and where has the least. And also when your mouse hover on each area, there will be a tooltip telling you the neighbor name and the case number of this area. And if you only check the COVID-19 vaccine layer, it gives you the locations of vaccine clinics. And it also have an information bar to tell you the name, address, opening hours, and the website of it. And lastly, we have 2 services that our group thought will be nice to have. So one is the direction service. So if you click on the direction icon, it will open a text field that needs you to type in your location and your destination in the field, and click on the searching icon. It gives you a route from your location to the destination. Also on the left side of the map, there will be different transportation options such as driving, bus, bike, or on foot. So if you click on each of them, they will give you a different route. And the last one is locate your location service. So if you click on this icon, you need to type in your address. So the map will automatically zoom in to your address so you can see your surroundings. So what test locations or vaccine clinics do you have? And you can also see the neighbors' case numbers. Yeah, so that's our interaction design.
I would love to get some questions. Oh, do you have future plans? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do this as a last part. So we will learn to learn Google JavaScript API to like implement the functions, different functions of the such as the toggle button and the zoom in, zoom out. And then we will build the web pages and code the visualizations. And we will conduct user tests to see if there's any like what's the good part and what's the better part. And yeah, and we will always keep optimizing the system to see what we can do better. Yeah, so any questions?
Before we get questions, or you can post questions on the chat if you want, or ask, but I just wanted to point out, we do have some options. The Vega Lite thing was to make things easier for you, but if you are using maps and you think learning JavaScript and the Google API is easier for you, go for it. I don't think it's going to be any easier in terms of tasks. So in case you think they're getting away with murder, they're not. The JavaScript discussion. And has anyone actually gotten a COVID test? And that's my question before we open the floor. If you've gotten a COVID test, what were you looking for when it came to where to get a COVID test? All right. Oh, useful to have a banner at the top of the webpage. What do you mean by a banner in this case, by the way?
Yeah, because why with that the direction service is not necessary, because actually users can go to Google Map to search by themselves. So it would be nice to have on our map, but not necessary. Yeah.
So who's had a COVID test? Doesn't mean you had it. I'm not going to shame you or anything like that. But if you've had a COVID test, what were you looking for?
Me?
Oh, no, anyone in the class. I'm trying to get them. I haven't had a COVID test, but I've had my kids. So but just for peace of mind. Okay. But where did you go, Jocelyn? Okay. You can't design around that unless all your moms work at a hospital. But that's you, Sebastian. Never mind. Sorry. Yeah, that would work. Okay, I had to go to the hospital. Any particular hospital? Jocelyn? Okay. But still, you still had to find a place. Yeah, knowing wait time, rule changes, whether you can get tested with symptoms or not symptoms. So the wait time is actually going to be something, I don't know if you have it in your data set, that is something useful, but I don't know if you don't have it.
No,
okay.
we don't have that data.
Okay.
We only have an average waiting time for all the tests, but we don't have like each location's waiting time.
But you might need to know if the place is available right now, which that might be also hard to implement. So you can ignore that advice if you want. But if I want to know if the wait time, if I'm looking for a test at 8 o'clock at night, I want to see things that are open right now, not necessarily all possible testing cases. But that might be, if that's hard to do, leave it out. That's a nice to have, not a necessary. Rule changes, okay, and whether you get the symptom versus asymptomatic is huge. I think child tests were at least big for us. We went all the way down to Carleton to get tested for my kids. So where do you? I think I said it to you guys earlier. Why are your filters in two different places?
Because users need to know, like, if they have specific requirements, like children's service or something else, they may want to focus on these locations and choose from them, rather than looking all the locations on the map.
No, not whether you have the filter. Why are the filters in two different places, two different locations on your screen?
Yeah, because this location, this filter on locations is only attached to the plots, the test centers. So we only wanted to show to users when they checked the COVID-19 testing location layers. If they only want to see the Ottawa neighborhood map, they may not want to see the filters on the plots because they're not seeing it.
Got it. I see what you mean. So you could have it theoretically. This is not necessary, but if I click on the COVID testing locations and I only show the other filtering that you can do beneath it, indented and beneath it. So underneath that line where the checkbox is, underneath there, indented, you may have 3 other filters that you can check from. And if that thing is not, if the main COVID-19 testing location is not checked, don't show those.
Oh, okay.
That's a possibility. I mean, I don't know how hard that is to implement, but it's a little thing for me is always, if you have multiple places that are called systems and options and preferences, I don't know if when you look at websites, you get that a lot. And it's frustrating because you don't know where you're supposed to go for changing your settings, right? Is it under preferences? Is it under settings? Is it under options? I don't know. So that's a point of concern. I love that you changed the your color map legend at the bottom so that's on transparency. It's really nice. Okay. Other questions that people have? I can throw more. I got at least one more. Just gonna adjust. Okay. My piece of advice is the same advice I give to everybody. People are egocentric. I don't want to know about Ottawa in general. I want to know my location where I am. You could have it if you wanted to. Pretend you know where I am located. You could just tell us that you're pretending that you know where we're located, and have the map start there, and then be able to zoom out. You're showing all of Ottawa, but I really only want places near me. If that makes sense. So instead of having that click on location, put in your address, have it start at like a zoomed in location. It's at least a thing to play around with. You could, if you're going to be able to do that zoomed into a particular location, try having it start in a zoomed in location and just say, yeah, you're living on 1019 Main Street. Yeah, that's where you're living. And then just start there, zoomed in, and then be able to zoom out. Just try that out when you're developing your system to see if that works better for you.
Oh, that might be a GPS thing.
Yeah, just pretend it automatically got it from you.
Yeah.
Because from Ottawa, it's hard to do. Yeah, all of Ottawa. But you might want to start with all of Ottawa. Maybe that is the way you want to do it. But these are just little things to play around with, and we don't know what's going to work and what's not going to work necessarily always. All right, let's You guys are not that talkative right now, but some of you are asking great questions. So let's see next group, who's going? It is the export group. So who's talking for export? That is the Ottawa Sports Facilities Group, but their project is named Export. So okay, I gotta find your name now. Or you can just turn on your microphone and I'll see you. Ah, there you are. I don't hear you at all, though.
Hi. Hi.
There you go.
Hi. Is that all right?
Yep, we can see it.
Oh, okay. Let's get started. So for us, Ottawa Sports Facility Groups, we have group members: Simon Liu, Crystal Shao, Hawken Lai, Xueqiao Liu, and Zehua Cao. Okay. Joey Liu, you can go first.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Our project will represent 5 different types of sports facilities, which include swimming pools, rinks, skateboard park, standing hill, and tennis court. Our target user is all the citizens from Ottawa or live in Ottawa, or even a person who want to find a facility in Ottawa. After we conduct many meetings and interview with many potential users, we think the users would like to use a website to find facilities that nearby their location. Also, sometimes they will be willing to choose a specific type of activity and use our website to locate a specific address. So our first choice of showing our data is giving them suggestion about facilities nearby after the location has been assessed. And next one always says, nice to have one, is when users are clear with what they want to do, but don't know the location or any like detailed information. We can help them narrow the range of choice through filters, but the orders are probably listed based on distance from near to far. So like I introduced before, our project's goal is to give the most near or suitable facility location to users. So we think interactive map with different icons is the most appropriate option to present our data. So in addition, we believe that locating a specific location is the primary focus, but users may also care about whether it's it's closed or open. Or how far this place is from or near me, and whether I have something closer or more convenient choice, or maybe like something like that. Or is there any lights in this place? Even is there a dressing room or toilet or other kind of available facilities? So so we take rinks as an example to simulate the problem that users can encounter and what they want our website to contain. So the right side of the PowerPoint is the icons that we use to represent different facilities. And we think it is clear enough to identify even you are a new user. And left side is the table that we use to filter the different rinks. Like when a user wants to compare different rinks that nearby, they can use those requirements to find the most suitable one. So let me introduce more about our final sketch of our website page. we will have two different modes that users can choose to find their final needs. The default mode is to take the user's current location address as the center. Then we will expand outwards and list them according to distance. Users can click on the homepage to view more detailed information according to their needs. And the filter mode is to categorize different types of facilities and list them together. Users can view the homepage of each category by clicking the corresponding icon, like I showed before. So the flow chart below is showing how users can use our website to find a facility. First, they will come to our homepage and we will list all facilities and locations in order only based on distance, not by type. However, if users already have an elementary idea of any kinds of sports facilities and they want and just need more information, they can go to filter mode to help them locate a specific one more quickly. Now, Xinpeng Liu will give us more detailed information about our website.
All right, this is our recently sketch about our website. So as you can see, this is a bunch of icons to represent different kind of facilities like tennis court and sliding hills, something like that. Actually, these 5 icons are like 5 filters. User can always click on these icons to like do the filter stuff. If I click on the swimming pool, the map on the right hand side will like turn into the function with only swimming pool in it. Like the left hand side is like we take Carleton University as our demo location. And this is a list to show that where the facilities nearby, like the Barrier Park is the most nearest one. Users can always click on the purple triangle here. We only use that for like demo presentation. And they can jump into something like this, a detailed version of how this park provide, like does it provide light or does it provide toilets or something like that. We may after today's class, we also know that we can actually add some colors into our list. Maybe we can use different colors to present the ground color. Like we turn this part to like blue, it represents the blue ground. Turn it to green, it represents the green ground, something like that. Once the user click on the detailed version, it will also reflect on the map. User can feel that they click there, or user can always click on the map side to reflect on the list side to view the more detailed version of the list. Here is the address. Users can always click the hyperlink to the Google Map and directly go for directions or something like that. As I said before, users can always click on the five different kind of icons to relocate themselves or to just do a filter stuff. If I only want to see the available landing hills, is on there. But right now we think before all the user interview and stuff like that, we imagine that our data set is a seasonal stuff. But right now, after we think that seasonal actually doesn't matter to users, because users will only distinguish what's available to them or does not available to them. If this data set is not available to them, we just delete it from the list. That's what we are going to do right now. The default mode will default all the available facilities right now. And here on the right corner there is like an advanced filter. Users can always do this kind of choice question or something like that to search what they want. But we also know that we have 5 different data sets, so it might be different for each one of those facilities, like outdoor rings or something like that. They might be different, so we have like a 4 button here. User can switch to other facilities. So that's our final sketch and the overall of our presentation.
All right, let's get some questions on the go then. So the question, if let me pose it to the class, if they can speak up on this. They didn't speak about COVID, but I want you to do it here. How do you find places to go? Oh, one small little, if I was looking at it on this, so the fidelity wasn't that nice. Those are skis. But your icon for sledding hills is skis.
Yeah, yes.
Not the same. Right. You were going to very confuse a lot of people, but like, I can go skiing in Ottawa, in the center of Ottawa? That's awesome. Oh, wait, it's a sledding hill.
Yeah, that's skis, not sledding hills.
The worst possible sledding skis ever. Oh, there you go. Kids, seniors activities, joining fees, scheduled time. The joining fees are going to be the problem for tennis court, not for sledding hills. It's one of those weird things. Time of classes, if you have a class, that I'm not sure if that's available data sets, Rami, but I don't know if are all your things free activities for all of these, or are there some schedules as well?
Actually, they have some schedules, but yeah, like maybe some outdoor rinks open for hockeys at some scheduled days, but or scheduled hours. But actually, that are already posted on the city website.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Isaac has the thing I was pointing out. Very nice. I'm not sure if you have that data, or those data, but it's actually important data. The quality of the ice in the rink actually makes a difference. We have indirect measures of it, though, which would be things like, is it a puddle rink or is it a permanent rink? Does it have a cover on it?
Yes, we will have that kind of data like here. Ring tap, paddles, or rink, or double surface, or rink with paddle.
And so that's another dimension you could have actually in your icons themselves, or conveyed some other way, so that you don't have to do a filter based on that. You can actually, see the kind of rink it is. Like, there's ways of doing it so that, let's say your skate icon changes color depending on the kind of rink it is, for example.
Yes.
Right. There are ways you can, if it's something that's really important, you can see different things, like whether it has boards or not. But yes, the quality of the ice rink, one of my suggestions I made was, is there a way to get the photos for these rinks? Probably not, but that would be really awesome. Right?
Get the photos. We have like 200 or 300, something like that.
They're publicly available photos as long as you know the location. So you can actually scrape it from Google to get the photos if you needed to, but that's maybe a challenge.
I think it's also a good choice to ask real users to rank, something like that, to rank this location is available or not, or is it good or not, or something like that.
How much do you trust user rankings nowadays, though? I don't trust user rankings at all.
Yeah, or maybe like our group members will go there and check if this is like a company stuff.
That's a lot of work. Yeah, the scraping is, you could do it programmatically and fast, but that's a lot more advanced skills than I'm not expecting from you guys. So just an option. What about the icons? What do people think about the icons? You made icons like I make icons, so I just wanted to see what people thought on it. So we got to move to this. Informative. Immediately identifiable in small scale. Yeah, the details are going to get lost. You need to simplify those things. Find a way to make it so painfully iconic that it's an icon. Hard to tell when it becomes, which they have similar colors, similar icons, similar, well, the shapes are fine, but it's going to be hard. Swimming pool, that is intuitive at first, not be intuitive at first glance. The wave or the water itself is what tells you it's a swimming pool, not necessarily having a ladder and stuff like that. The skate itself, you can remove a lot of the details just to make it pop for you. And sledding hills are not skis. But the tennis racket, for sure, that's off. That one works nicely. But you can even make them black and white if you needed to, like just black silhouette, just to really make it pop.
Ah, I see.
Right? It's your system is living and dying based off of those icons. So you need to make them that, even if it's minusculely small, you know exactly what that thing is. And I design icons the same way that you do, with all this detail, and then I go, no, I have to simplify it. you have to shrink it down to just be like, oh, I know exactly what that thing is. And a skateboard is not going to, I think you may have to do flip the skateboard around so it's like this, right? So you see the wheels on the bottom.
Yeah.
But okay, like I think I don't know how much more time we have. 2 more groups to go through. Sorry, guys. But yeah, thank you very much. I will also send off feedback as well. Who's next? Wait, great ideas, guys.
My group can go.
All right, Kara, are you presenting?
Yeah.
All right. You are now co-host, or now you are co-host.
Okay. Can everyone see that okay? Okay, sweet. Yeah, Will, you can take it away.
All right, we're the data dudes. The group's me, Kara, Lindsay, Beatrice, and Jocelyn. I'll just be kicking it off. So our who is investors. Investors acquire capital in hopes that their investments will increase in value. They'll be paid interest and be provided dividends. They do evaluations for like potential business investments, and they analyze markets that will generate a return on their investments. So they consider a lot of factors like competition, location, market size, and risk when they do their job. And then this is just a little persona we've been using since part 1 of our project. It's Fabio. He's just a guy working at a small private equity firm in Mississauga, and he's looking to invest in retail trades throughout Ontario. But a lot of retail trades have been really messed up past year because of COVID. And so Fabio's a little unsure. It's new ground. He needs new data to really make a good informed business choice.
So these are okay.
So these are domain tasks. We have index IDs for all of them. So our first one is like how are certain retail trade sales performing? Our second one, how do COVID numbers or decisions impact retail trades in Ontario or Ottawa? Number 3 is examining retail trade sales by trade industry, which industries have a good investment outlook. Number 4, which industries are changing the most drastically? And 5, how do different areas in Canada compare?
So these are our top 3 sketches. So we have 2 line charts and 1 bar chart. And when we made their sketches, we didn't really have the COVID numbers in mind. So we adapted one of our last visualization to show them those numbers. And we also like the bar chart because the bars are less misleading in showing the exact values.
All right, so we're going to go over how we're going to be making our final visualizations based on the tasks and the sketches that we've made earlier. And we'll talk about the marks and channels used. So we're doing lines for the marks. Channels will include positions, horizontal, vertical, color, size, and length. And you'll see those in the next visualizations. But some interactive components will be selecting and highlight, navigation pan, and navigation zoom. And so we can see in the first visualization, you'll see the bar chart with the lines, and we're using different colors to differentiate the years of 2019 and 2020. And we're going to show daily COVID-19 cases with an area chart. And in this, the user is able to choose a retail trade that they want to focus on, and that will affect the visualization.
So this is our second chart. It shows multiple retail industries at the same time. So you can choose how many industries you want to put on the graph at once. And it's also an index. So it's more easy to compare the different industries, since something like groceries will have a much higher value than like clothing sales, for example. So we're going to basically just be dividing each value by its January 2019 value. And we can also change our view down here to zoom in and out to look at different years. And we did consider having this affect the first chart, but we didn't think that would really work out too well. For example, if you had this showing like, let's say December 2019 to February 2020, it wouldn't really translate well to the other graph since it shows just the months. So this is one example of the interactivity we're using. So if you remember the first one, it had 3 different colors. So here you can just select one of the 3 fields to look at the trends more easily. It just makes the other data fade into the background more. So here I can look at 2020 more easily. One example of brushing and linking we have, if we select one of the months up here, we can see a little tooltip show up, and it also has the line down here for the other graph to point at the same time. And then since here we would be selecting like a full month, presumably if you were zoomed out enough, you would see a line for March 2020 and 2019 since it's showing both.
And then another example of how we're implementing brushing and linking is as the user is playing with the bottom visualization, they're able to click on a line and it will show a certain industry. We'll have a tooltip with the month and the retail trade sales, and that will affect the top visualization to include the same retail industry. And that's what we have for our presentation. We're open to questions and comments.
Can I ask what stonks means as the old guy?
Yeah, it's just a meme that means stocks.
Okay, stocks, but not, yeah. I'm assuming less.
This is our like visual communication knowledge being applied.
But I'm assuming it's someone use it as a derogatory term for people that are betting on stocks without knowledge.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, or just like making fun of people who do care about stocks.
Got it. Okay.
Can be both.
I'm an old guy. I don't know these things. You and you guys in your rock and roll.
It's what you make it.
Good point. All right. Questions? There's the area chart with the bar chart. Both have different y-axis. You got the y-axis thing.
Wait, sorry. I can't find the
Rami
chat button.
made a
I've
thing in
lost
the
it.
chat.
Oh, I found the chat. Okay. Wait, what was
Yeah.
the question?
So you want me to read it out or?
Oh, no, I see it. Okay.
Okay.
I merged the area chart with the bar chart. Yeah, so we have the daily COVID-19 cases over here, and then the total sales in thousands over here.
I'm wondering what you could do with that, because if you, is there a way to really, because dual axis graphs are famously bad. You can every once in a while, it's a hard needle eye to thread or whatever the term is. It's hard to thread that needle. There you go. To get it right, because with two axes, you're not necessarily sure which one is referring to which, right? Now, if you color the text, I'm not sure if that's going to help at all, but if you color the text on the right-hand side here, if that's your COVID cases, and you made that red, not the same color red, because that's a pretty pinky light red, but if you made it a legible red over on this side, you might be putting two and two together on that one, right? Red text on the, you can't see what my mouse is doing. My mouse is moving on the right-hand side of your graph. The red text, there you go. The red text for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. If I made that text red, it might also associate with the red of the COVID background. This is a possible solution to help, because what you're really trying to do is tie those things together, right? So little things like how we do encapsulation. So if you colored in, if you had an area around those numbers that then folded and encapsulated part of your legend with COVID-19, that might look ugly, but that's the kind of thing where you play with, right? How do you make sure that they go, oh, that goes with that? So you need some way to, Gestalt principles, map the axis with what it's representing, which of those data is representing, because I know because I was looking at this and that completely slipped my mind as well. The numbers on the left are actually only for two of those three different things on the graph.
Yeah.
Right, and you need to be able to associate one with the other. So finding some way, some commonality is what's key. And so red with red, or encapsulating it in an area, or whatever the case is, that's the big thing here.
Okay. Yeah, we could also maybe move our total sales up here to like the side, and maybe move this like legend somewhere else.
If you move the legend on one side, move the legend on the other side, so you sort of legend in two different parts. It'll take up more space width-wise, but yeah, that would work too. That would work quite nicely, actually, because now we're using proximity as the Gestalt principle.
Oh yeah, not seeing a correlation between COVID-19 cases and sales. We kind of just made these bars.
Yeah,
really
I was figuring you're doing that right now, at least. And we're seeing changes over time. This has the same problem as I discussed with the group, although I sort of signed off on this. The issue is we have two bars. It's doing the right thing because you're trying to compare bar to bar at this particular month, which is what we're trying to emphasize here. But the fact of the matter is you have two different years and they're different bar colors, right? So you don't naturally think of one year to the next as being two different categorical data. You think of as ordinal, right? So you wouldn't think of it as 2019, 2020 as bars right next to each other, but they are in this case. I think it's worth it simply because you're doing a cross comparison between 2019 and 2020. That's the big point that you're trying to get across. One of the big points you're trying to get across is comparing month to month, how it changed from 2019 to 2020.
Yeah, and we thought that would be useful too, since some retail sales change based on the months. So we see like a lot of luxury item sales closer to the end of the year because a lot of people are celebrating Christmas or Hanukkah or different things that involve giving. So yeah, we thought it'd be useful to compare the months just because without it, you might see a trend that isn't there. And we were surprised that like vehicle sales were highest in the spring. So yeah, I don't know.
That's wild. All right.
So yeah, that kind of helps maybe control for more like cyclical changes.
Okay. other questions that people have? I have another thing I could pick on if we want, but your overview, make one part like the overview that you're currently highlighting. That's great. Keep it the highlight. Keep that there. I would actually mute that red line to like a gray. Just dull that other stuff out. You're trying to focus attention, right? So you want to dull
like
everything
down
that you're not
here?
paying attention to.
This?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's coming along nicely. The transparency's working like a charm here.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we can like change the blending mode in Vega Light. But yeah, we just
We'll see.
blended it.
Tori had a question, and then we'll move on to the last group. Sorry if we're going along.
Are we investors? No. We had
I have some investments, but like I
okay.
didn't pick that because of this. I'll be honest.
Yeah, we had a lot of different possible audiences, and we just kind of went with investors, and then we regretted it. But you know what? It like challenged us, I think, especially like sort of making the comparison between COVID and sales. We wouldn't have done that if this was for business owners, for example, who would use something like this to like compare their own sales to averages. So yeah, it's been fun.
But you do have an inside track on not investors per se, but in terms of Stats Canada.
Yeah.
So there, at least you have some people you can talk to rather than me who knows nothing about investing. I throw money into an RSP and that's all. Yeah, take my money and hope it comes back. It's like a magic bucket you shovel money into.
Yeah, got that tax-free savings account.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we're trying to do all that kind of stuff. All right, next group. Thanks very much. Yeah, unshare your screen. There you go. Who's presenting for the last group? Kara, you're muted, I think. Who's presenting in the last group? Last group is Capital Raiders. Okay, where are you, Billy? I'll find where you are. You can also talk, it'll pop you up to the top of the screen. Oh,
Hi.
I'm missing half the people. Okay, there you go. Thank you. No, boo to anyone that is not missing. If anyone has taken off early and for no valid reason. All right.
Can anybody see my screen?
I cannot see your screen yet. You'd have to do share screen.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm actually not very sure how to do that.
It should have an icon on the very bottom of your screen. Depending on what system you're using. Thank you, Zoom, for screwing that up. So it should say share screen and a little green icon at the bottom of your screen.
I'm looking for it, but I don't think I see it here. Can anybody in my group share their screen? Because I'm trying and I don't see anything pops up.
Only I'm making Conley a co-host. Who else was in your group?
Lei and Kai. Yeah, they're my group mate. Sorry, everybody.
Where's Kai though? Did Kai take off? Oh no, it's 25 people supposedly. I just don't know why I don't see everyone.
I'm really trying, but I don't.
Okay,
I cannot
Kai.
find it anywhere.
All three of you are co-hosts now. So somebody grab a presentation and just, we'll go with it. Leah or Kai, are you able to present?
text them, but I'm not sure if they are there.
They should be on the call. Let's start video.
Oh, none of them can. I'm so
Okay.
sorry for wasting your time.
Well, we may just have to bail on this, and you don't get the feedback from everyone else. Are you sure you don't have anything at the bottom of your screen?
Yeah, I'm very sure. I've been looking for it, but
Okay.
there's
What are you using, by the way,
nothing.
for your operating system? Or what?
I'm using Mac.
You're using a Mac, okay. But the Mac should have, if you're at full screen, you should be able to see that option, but I don't know. If anyone has a Mac and knows what they need to do, then that's fine. Otherwise, we'll just hunt down the whole thing.
Oh, can you see now?
I can see that.
Okay, okay. It's finally there. All right. We good?
I think so. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna waste any of your time. Our group with capital letters include me, Jolie, Kai, and Okune. So first off, this is I'm gonna show you the earliest sketch of our map, our visualization. So we are gonna make a pin map showing the different cultural events that take place within the city. This is what the earlier sketch looked like. And we focus on who, what, why, and how. The first question, who are the user? So basically, anybody who has interested in knowing more about the city culture, the Ottawa city, and those who want to socialize and make more friends, those who want to look for the area of interest but don't know where to start, like me, who come from a different place, and yeah, the one who are and familiar with the city, like international or tourists. Next one, what do they do? So we divided two type of user. The first one is who already had a specific area of interest. So what they can do is that they can look through the pin map, find their area of interest. For example, I'm interested in fashion. So fashion is color coded depending on each type of event and festival. And what they can do is that they can hover the pin and get the provided information, which include the name of the event, the address, and the postal code. And for those who don't know where to start, it's basically the same step, but they could look at the overall picture. And why do they do it? Users are searching for specific activities. Users are searching for an activity that is held at the most convenient location and time. Users are looking to kill time where they wait for their friend to finish. Yes, stuff like that. And how can they use our system to solve their problem? The user could quickly spot out their type of event and its location at the same time. Since we are showing the whole map, user has a chance to look over the big picture and find out what they like. And only necessary information will be included, so user doesn't have to look at the information that doesn't relate it to their need. And our visual encoding is that we use area, which is the overview of Ottawa, the color, we color code the interested festival, recreation activities, and food. The point to point out the precise location, which is address, postal code, and the available time of different event, and the star, which is their popularity. And this is the visualization. This was actually made by Kunle. So if Kunle want to talk deeply more about this, he could take over. Oh, I don't think anybody is here, so I'm just gonna go over it. Basically, it's kind of the same. We follow the same concept with the pin map, but this one is more interactive. So we divide it into two different seasons, summer and winter. This include the festival, food, theater, amusement, sport, and the park for both seasons. And this is a kind of our inspiration that we're following. Yeah. And this is our to-do list. We have loaded a map of Ottawa, the street name, point A to B. We filter the layers color-coded by type of activities. We cut to only show activities between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m., which is the time when people are more comfortable going out. And we only show activities in the downtown area. Yeah, and I think that basically is.
Okay, so can you go back to your visualization also? One slide. So what colors, for those of you that are in the audience, what color is, and without looking at the map, just turn your head away. What color is theater? Well, you can look at the map, but that's not slap in the face obvious now.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at a map, you're focused on the map. Are you looking over at the word theater on the side? Especially theaters and festivals are both, well, one's orange, one's yellow, but they're sort of seem very related to one another. So my question then is, if you're using color this way and just a dot, how obvious is it going to be when you're looking at these things?
I see what you're trying to say. So this thing are not very slap in the face and just need to be more presentable for the user to see it right away.
So why don't you try an icon?
Yeah, we could. At first we were planning to do that, but like the time was kind of rushed, so we didn't include that in there.
Okay.
But we did mention that we could use some icon to, it's easier for user to notice it if we use the icon instead of color.
You can use both, right? That's what I was talking about, redundant encoding. You want both a shape and a color, or an icon and which is a shape and a color. Like you want at least two, and it should be really obvious when you're looking at it, because you're going to have a whole lot of colors, different colors in there, and you got to worry about how the interaction. I would get rid of the directions, just throw them out. Like the ability to find the direction from point A to point B. You're not doing Google Maps. It's a really hard challenge and it has nothing to do with the course, right? The ability to do pathfinding is, unless it comes for free from Google Maps, which go for it, right? But otherwise, I would just throw that out. Just don't bother with it, right? You're looking for, the other question is, are people planning? I guess it depends on what your use case is, but is this meant for planning while you're waiting around, like as you said, waiting around for your friend, or is it I'm planning what to do next week or 6 months from now? Am I planning on when to do different international food festivals, or because not all those festivals, not all those activities, is it meant to be opportunistic or is it meant to be planning? They're very different tasks, and you need to choose a lane, pick a lane, if that makes sense.
Focus on one of them, yeah.
Because if I'm looking for, fashion, for example, as you said, there's not a lot of fashion things going on all at once in the city of Ottawa. So maybe you need to plan, and now you have to worry about time. If it's right now, that's a very different visualization and a very, very different task, and just pick whichever one you want to do, but you can't do both.
Yep, we will take
merge
note
winter
on
and
that.
summer maps. You could merge winter and summer maps. The question is, why do you need to show both at the same time?
We just feel like it's better to include more, so like people with different purpose could come into this visualization and use it. So like we have more diverse user, if that makes sense.
You're a 3-person group with a 1-term course project. So some may agree with what you're proposing, but it's a 3-person group with a 1-term course project and already too much data at once. So the question is, can you clip stuff out as quickly as possible? And as I said earlier today in the lecture, the issue is not whether you can present data. There's the perennial problem for visualization is not how much data can I show? It's how do I control the amount of data being shown, because people get overwhelmed. And so your job is to just let people not get overwhelmed. And so if you want to show both seasons, but why do I want to see both seasons at the same time? If you have a reason for it, great, leave it in. If you don't, get rid of it and have like a drop down for, or some way of choosing the season that you want to look at. Because what about spring? What about the fall?
Yeah, I'm gonna take note of that.
Okay. I had another question in here besides the icons. Oh, well, first of all, that's the Star of David, so some people might be a little confused. What does the star system mean for most of you, or what would you think the star system means? If I say 4 stars,
It's like the rate of like the place.
What
so
kind
like
of
how
rate?
populated to the people. Yeah, the popularity.
Oh, what other people rated the festival?
Yeah, it's like the most visited place, and it's more in the center. So yeah, that's how we rate it for the popularities.
Because most of the time the star systems are normally for like user ratings, like everyone thinks this is a great festival, not it's close to you.
Yeah, like the place that had the most people visited. That's how we.
But it's not normally you choosing. I guess my point is it's not normally you choosing what the rating system is. It's normally other people voting for the rating system, like Amazon or any number of other places. The rating system can do that, but the reason you use a rating scale on a number of stars is because you want to make it simple for people to give feedback. So you do ordinal data versus if you have a percentage match like Netflix would do, right? It's a different, it's going to give you the similar things. It's just percentage map gives you more granularity. You're saying how good is this? How many people are going to this place? Well, you could actually use the real numbers, or you could do other things. I wouldn't do a star ratings. I wouldn't use stars personally, because it's going to throw everyone off. A 4-star says it's everyone thinks it's great, not a whole lot of people go to it. Yep. So what was it? I got to read that again. I said, what other people think about it? We pulled it from Google, how high it was rated. That's people rating it though.
Yeah.
Not how good of a fit it is. Now, if you're pulling that rating system from Google, then fine, 4-star rating. That's the rating scale from Google. It's user evaluations, not how close it is, not how popular it is, how many people are going to it. It's how people grade it or how people evaluate it.
Yeah, I
At
see.
convention, that's what we're using it for.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that.
Okay. Yeah, and so I probably should show you the maybe I can see if I can find it was a 5-person group, so very different thing, very different priorities from your group for when it comes to this evaluation. But we had another group doing festivals in Ottawa last year, but they were designing it so you could plan ahead for when you go to a festival, like 6 months from now. Very different thing, but I can see if I can get their system, if their system's up and running, and I can pass along the URL for their system if that would help you.
Yeah, I would really
Just another
appreciate
point of
that.
comparison. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going a bit long, so that's why I was asking all the questions here. But does anybody have any additional? So good. Does anyone have any additional questions along the way? Just letting you know, for final project reports, I'm taking notes of all the people who ask questions, so that we can. That's part of the participation grade for this course. So please ask questions as you go. Okay. Okay, with that being said, what we're gonna do is you can stop sharing your screen. I'm gonna stop recording, and then we're gonna call it a day. Right now it's 12:05. Sorry for going long, everyone. But so far things are really, you don't understand. Things are really coming along nicely for your projects. I'm really impressed. There's always things to tweak. So just keep up the good work and let me know if you need any help. All right.